A distinguished army officer and a persecuted special operations commander develop a complex relationship through remote communication. The girl tries to establish peace and equality between her gender and her isolated comrades in a special area where they fight wars as slaves. The story begins with a girl named Vladilena waking up in her room to start a new day. From her clothes, it appears that she works in her country's military. After having breakfast with her mother, she leaves the house. It is interesting to note that everyone has the same hair color, as if they belong to the same tribe. On her way to work, she watches the news and learns that a battle has taken place at the military headquarters in San Magnolia, and that her country's forces have won without any casualties thanks to their robots. When Vladilena arrived at headquarters, she found all the officers in a pitiful state, with chaos reigning due to their excessive drinking. Then she heard one of them talking about yesterday's battle as if it were nothing, and what angered her was that they were talking about combat robots with indifference. When she set out to teach them a lesson, she ran into Henrietta on her way and was surprised that she was awake so early in the day. Henrietta told her that she had stayed up all night working, unlike those fools around them. Before Vladilena continued on her way to confront those who had mocked her, Henrietta told her that there was no point in arguing with them, as everyone believed that the enemy would disappear in 2 years' time, which made them complacent and negligent, and she would be the odd one out if she took the matter seriously. Then Vladilena listened to some officers complaining about having to listen to complaints from Sector 86, and Henrietta asked her directly why she was interested in Sector 86. She remained silent until a sound came from the bracelet she wore on her wrist, indicating the start of a clash somewhere. Vladilena headed to her office, sat down at her advanced computer, and began watching the war in the form of illustrations. She was giving instructions to her soldiers when one of them noticed that she was deliberately being nice only to those belonging to Sector 86, not the rest, describing them as mere inhuman soldiers. She was then surprised by General Jerome's decision to change her assigned unit. He told her that one of the officers in the unit was retiring and they would need someone to take his place. When she asked if this unit was defending a base so important that they had not appointed a successor for the senior officers, he told her that she would be transferred to Defense Line 1 in Sector 1, known as in the Spearhead Fleet. He added that the fleet was made up of warriors from all over the Eastern Theater. When Vladilena began reading about the fleet, she realized that she was not qualified to take on such a position as a new lieutenant in the army. Jerome told her that she was the youngest person to be promoted to this rank and warned her not to be too modest. Then he looked at the photo of them with her father and told her that he was confident that her father would be proud to see what his daughter had achieved so far. When he asked her about her mother Margreta, she told him that she never stopped talking to her about marriage. She then returned to asking if there was anyone else who could take over the leadership of the Heroes unit instead of her. He told her that the former commander of this unit was known as the Soul Catcher and destroyed any robot that got in his way. Vladilena was surprised by the fact that a healer was causing the destruction of robots and not the other way around. Jerome told her that all the soldiers in the Soul Reaper unit were demanding his retirement or transfer to another unit, to the point that some of them had committed suicide. When Vladilena felt afraid, Jerome told her that she was not obliged to accept the new position, but she decided to accept the challenge and take command of the unit. He told her that they did not need more than what was usual and that she should stop trying to get close to the processors. She should also stop writing the number of deaths in her reports, as there were no humans officially on the battlefield. When Vladilena objected, he told her that she was just like her father, then officially appointed her as commander of Unit 1 in Sector 1 and asked her to submit her report as soon as she arrived there. In the evening, Henrietta considered her strange for accepting the position. He told her that she had been given the honor of commanding the unit of heroes and that it was an important job for her. She also doubted the news of the soldier's death and bet that there were those who did not care about their work, so they resorted to fabricating a lie in order to get rid of him. Henrietta told her that one of the soldiers in Spearhead had lost his mind and shot himself in the head. Vladilena was surprised by the idea that someone would resort to suicide, and Henrietta told her that they had received a request to look into the matter and thought it might cause problems with what is known as the Para-Red. She added that all they had found was that there were no problems with the raid device and expressed her dissatisfaction with how Sector 86 had handled the matter. She then showed her an illustration of the effect of using the Para-Red on the brain and that it could cause significant damage to the brain when the user tried to combine sight and hearing at the same time. She then suggested that Vladilena join her in the research and development department if she wanted to learn more about devices and robots, as her role as a soldier would end 2 years after the enemy disappeared, but she would continue her work if she joined the research field. However, Vladilena rejected her suggestion and told her that they were at war and she had to do her duty. She ended up enjoying a cake made by Henrietta from real ingredients, as they had been eating artificial food for a long time and eating real food was considered a luxury in the future. The next day, Vladilena's squad suffered a heavy loss, and when she tried to contact one of the soldiers, someone told her that he had died. She felt ashamed of her failure to lead the squad for the last time before moving to Spirehead. When she told her followers about her move to Spirehead, she found one of the soldiers asking her to convey his regards to the Reaper. The next day, in Sector 86, a soldier named Shiny sat checking his notebook until it was time for breakfast. He joined his colleagues at the table, who seemed to be enjoying themselves as they mocked one of the soldiers from their sector who had lost his mind in yesterday's battle. Then Shanae found one of his colleagues who preferred death under the command of their Reaper if their death was inevitable. On the same day, at night, they fought a bloody battle that ended with one of their colleagues being wounded. After the situation stabilized, he went to check on him and found that he was on the verge of death, so he was forced to give him a mercy shot. At night, Shanae sat down and engraved his friend's name on a piece of his robot to commemorate him. Then, to everyone's surprise, their new unit commander was a woman. Vladilena spoke to them through the devices they wore in their ears and told Shanae that she wanted to introduce herself to him as the new commander. He told her that he was the commander of the Spear Fleet division known as the Soul Catcher and looked forward to working with her. Shanae met with his colleagues who told him that the new commander seemed dangerous. While they were talking, he found the mechanic Aldrecht heading towards him in a state of rage because he had deliberately destroyed the vehicles on every mission. He told him that they did not have any extra parts to repair them and that they would have to wait until a new batch of equipment arrived. Then it occurred to him to use parts from the vehicle of one of the soldiers who had already been killed, and he asked Shanae if he minded. Shanae did not object, and when Aldrecht asked him about the new recruit who had joined their unit, Shanae told him that she had called to greet them and that she wanted to maintain good communication between herself and the unit. Aldrecht assumed that she was just a poor soldier suffering from a miserable life, as this was unusual behavior for a distinguished soldier in the Republic. Shanae placed the scrap metal engraved with his friend's name with the rest of the pieces belonging to their comrades who had died in the wars and engraved their names to commemorate them. The next day, Shanae sat reviewing his notes while his comrades were preparing for the evening celebration, but suddenly they received a warning that an enemy army was approaching and that they were about to experience a storm that would cause radar malfunctions in 2 hours. They decided to turn back, and Shanae held a meeting to explain the situation to them. He told them that there was a squadron of enemy forces near them, accompanied by another squadron behind them, and devised a plan to ambush them at a specific point so that they could destroy as many enemy vehicles as possible. After they got ready to start the plan, they found Vladilena contacting them to tell them to deal with the forces heading towards them, but she was surprised that Shanae and his friends had already started moving and had a plan to trap them. 2 hours later, the enemy vehicles known as the Grolfalf Knights arrived. When they realized who their enemies were, they knew they had to take the battle seriously and waited for the right moment until the enemy forces reached a certain point. They ended up surrounded by the spearheads, who began firing a barrage of bullets and rockets at them from all directions. Shanae was directing his comrades during the battle, and during the fighting, he ordered them to retreat after seeing the warplanes that began firing missiles at them. Then Vladilena sent him the locations of the planes around them so that they could avoid them. He told her to stick to verbal communication during the battle, as sending data could easily reveal their location. When Raiden told him that there were a lot of enemies this time, he told him to think of it as a hunting trip and enjoy himself taking them down. Vladilena was surprised to see Shanae's movements towards the enemies, as he rushed towards them without hesitation and easily dodged their attacks. He then destroyed the vehicles one by one, moving with agility and speed. Vladilena realized how powerful he was, and over time he succeeded in eliminating a huge number of enemy soldiers, and the spearhead unit was victorious, won the first battle after Vladilena joined them. On the other side, Vladilena went to the lecture hall and couldn't control herself when the professor told the students that there had been no casualties in their army since the army started using drones. She then told them that she would now tell them the true history of the country and recounted how the Republic's army had been destroyed 9 years ago in the space of 2 weeks, prompting the government to take 2 decisions to withdraw all citizens to 85 administrative districts and to establish a law to maintain peace in times of war. She then added that all those who did not have hair and silver eyes like them would not be considered human and would be kept and monitored carefully in detention camps outside the 85 districts. This is how Sector 86 came into being and was separated from the rest of the sectors by building a fort between them. Then she showed the students an illustration of the combat vehicles and told them that they were vehicles driven and operated by humans, not autonomous combat vehicles as they were trying to make them believe. But they told them that there were no humans in them because everyone here did not consider those in Sector 86 to be human like them. One of the students told her that they were not human after all, but merely half humans who had failed to evolve and rise to their level. She told him that those in Sector 86 were human and died every day in wars, and that she fought alongside them. She was shocked when one of the students asked her if she had been to the battlefield before. Then she had to tell them that she had been to the battlefield once but had not fought, as the only people forced to risk their lives in battle were the 86. At that point, the professor began to reprimand her and accuse her of supporting the 86. She asked him what their national flag symbolized, and when he replied that it symbolized freedom, equality, brotherhood, justice, and nobility, and that this applied to humans and not to those belonging to 86, he asked her not to disclose false information to his students. However, she insisted on telling them that the members of 86 were humans just like them, different ages, but they did not enjoy the luxuries they had and were not allowed to see them. After that, she went to meet Henrietta, who told her that she might be punished for what she had said to the students, but she did not care because she was confident that Jerome would take care of it, and it was too late to change their country's mistake. When I asked her about her first meeting with the Soul Collector, she told me that they communicate constantly and talk about many things, and she feels that their hearts are connected even though they are apart heart. Then she began to recall the qualities that impressed her about him and said that he does not seem as scary as rumored. Henrietta noticed her heart rate increasing as she talked about Shine, and when she returned to her room, she used the para-read to contact him and enjoyed talking to him all night long. Meanwhile, the residents of 86 were spending their time playing and eating. While Shine was reading his diary, Ryden asked him about Vladilena and told him that if they had started moving according to her instructions, they would have started from an ideal starting point. Ryden told him that he felt she was not just a spoiled rich girl, and when his friends called him, he had to end the conversation and join them. After Shine was left alone, Anju approached him and gave him a piece of the cake she had prepared. She was curious about what he was reading, so he told her that he resorted to reading when he felt like he was about to drown in his thoughts. Then Vladilena contacted them via para-read, and some of them felt resentful because she had been contacting them daily for a week. Shine told her that they were just hanging out to pass the time, and she expressed her dissatisfaction that the reports he had written since his arrival in Spirehead were all similar. She asked him why she was interested in what was happening on the battlefield, and he replied that part of her job as a commander was to analyze the tactics and formations of the fleet. She asked him to send her the reports regularly and that she would read them. Shine told her that he was not good at reading and writing because there were no schools in their sector. Kai told her that he was just making that up because he was too lazy to write reports. She quickly became afraid that Shine would take her life, and he ended up being forced to send Vladilena a written report containing all the missions he had carried out. She then told everyone that she was the same age as them and asked them how long they had been in the army. They told her that they were all in their 4th year, while Shine was in his 5th, which made him their leader. When she asked him if he had any aspirations for after his term of service ended, he told her that he hadn't thought about it yet. She expressed her confidence that his mother would be fun if he tried to think of something, and Shine felt that she might be right. The next day, Haruto suggested that the young men go and peek at the girls while they were bathing in the river. When Daya refused and felt embarrassed, he told him that they might die tomorrow and that they should take advantage of opportunities while they were still alive. Daya insisted on his opinion and told them that they were supposed to be loyal friends to each other and considered it a betrayal. On the other hand, the girls were enjoying their time bathing in the river, while Kai was content to sit on the rocks and contemplate the view. Then it occurred to the girls to ask each other what they thought of Shiny as a person. Some of them teased Karina, knowing that she liked him, but she kept denying it. Kai said that he wasn't a bad person and that she liked his calmness and wisdom, which made Karina feel jealous. Kay told her that she would have pursued him if she hadn't cared so much about him, which made Karina blush as red as her hair, and she continued to deny her admiration for him, but they were all certain of her true feelings. Meanwhile, Daya and his friends ended up peeking at the girls from behind the bushes. Haruto and Theoto were surprised that he suddenly decided to accompany them and was staring at the girls more than they were. He justified this by saying that he came to observe their behavior. He ended up being exposed after they pushed him out of the grass, which led the girls to decide to stone him. Anju threw a knife at him and approached him to ask him why he had come, and he felt like he was about to wet his pants out of fear. Kay guessed that he had not come alone and managed to hit Theoto with a rock, which led to the discovery of the three of them and their direct interrogation. When Kai asked them what they were after, Daya had to explain it to them after Theoto and Haruto evaded the question and told them that they had come to ask them about something. Karina told them that they could have used the para-red, but Theoto apologized, saying that they didn't want to interrupt their fun and that it would be awkward if they were talking about romantic matters. When Haruto mentioned Karina's admiration for Shine, the girls were distracted and thought they had forgotten about them, but they soon found Kei turned to them again and asked them about the matter they wanted to inquire about. The three of them felt confused until Daya thought of asking them about the meaning of the word yubai. At that point, the three of them ended up getting severely beaten. In the evening, Karina felt angry about Shini's constant conversations with Vladilena every night, so she rushed out of the room, followed by Daya. She expressed her dissatisfaction with the situation and said that he should spend time with them because they could die at any moment. Daya tried to convince her that it was only temporary and that Vladilena would eventually stop calling and that it was just a waste of time. He then suggested that she tell Shini how upset she was about the woman's presence among them and that she wanted him to end it. Karina calmed down a little and apologized to him for her outburst, telling him that she could not forgive white-skinned, silver-haired people because they were the ones who had caused her mother's death after using her as a training target, as if she were just a doll after that. They returned to the others, and Vladilena was still chatting with them about many things. Raiden told her that the darkness during battles was so thick that it made the night seem frightening to them, but he remembered when he saw the stars twinkling in the sky for the first time and hesitated to mention what he had said then, but was surprised that Shine still remembered and told her that he had said that if this was the last thing he would ever see, it might not be so bad after all. Raiden felt embarrassed for telling Vladilena that, and they were surprised when she told them that she hoped to see such sights one day, as the lights in her city never went out at night. Kai told her that the nights here were very dark and that they were isolated from everything. Vladilena was curious to know if she hated her, and Kay replied that her feelings of discrimination and oppression angered her because of the difficulty of living in the sector, and she could not love people who had decided to consider them inhuman, isolate them in a remote area alone, and force them to fight constantly. Nevertheless, she believed that Alba like her are not bad, just as not all 86 are wonderful. Kai added that she belonged to one one of the rarest races in the sector, but many things had happened in her previous unit. Despite this, she would not hate her just because she was an Alba. She confessed that she now saw her as an interesting woman. Earlier, Vladilena was with Henrietta in an abandoned library collecting evidence, and Henrietta told her not to get more involved with 86. She told her that they were all human beings and trusted each other. Then, Henrietta managed to find a map showing the location of Sector 86 and its surroundings. After that, Vladilena returned to her room and decided to use that map to help them in battle. She used the para-red to communicate with 86, and while she was talking to them, she was surprised to hear a cat's voice coming through. They told her that it was a cat they were taking care of after it was attacked by a tank that killed its parents, and for that reason, it preferred to stay with Shinimi more than the rest. Vladilena enjoyed listening to their stories and learning more about their way of life in the sector. When she asked them the cat's name, they told her that everyone called it whatever they wanted, so it didn't have a specific name. She drew a cat at the bottom of her diary page, then she found Kai telling her that she had become more interested in her and wanted to know her opinion on something. When she asked her why she was so interested in them, she replied that she had been rescued long ago on the battlefield by a healer who had told her how proud he was to contribute to the protection of his homeland, and that this was what motivated him to continue fighting. Moved by his words, she became convinced that they should all follow in his footsteps and expressed her dissatisfaction that they were always asked to fight but never watched them fight, and that her own kind did not even try to communicate with them. Suddenly, she was shocked to hear Kay ask her if she was still a virgin. Then she heard some noise coming from Kay's direction and tried to justify it by saying that she did not mean the literal meaning of the word, but that she believed Vladilena was just a little girl who thought the whole world was full of flowers, which made her not a bad person. So she warned her that her current job was not suitable for her and that she should not get involved with them because they were not fighting for noble causes. She then advised her not to talk to them anymore and to try to find someone to replace her before she regretted it. A few days later, they were in the midst of a battle, and while Vladilena was trying to help them with information, she found that they had already planned to attack the enemy, so she just watched. Then she suggested that they create a diversion by having one of them move to another point close to them in order to distract the enemy. But she was surprised when Raiden told her that she wanted them to use one of them as bait, and she found that it wasn't a bad idea. Kay guessed that she had obtained a new map, so Vladilena thought of sending it to them. When they were surprised that she did not mind sending such confidential information to them, she told them that it would be useless if they did not use it. While she was talking, they began their clash with the enemy. Vladilena watched the map to keep track of their movements, and suddenly saw Kai heading to attack an enemy vehicle head-on. Before she could warn her not to go to that area, Kai's vehicle was destroyed, and the last thing she heard from her was that she couldn't move and didn't want to die now, while the enemy was approaching her. After Kai's death and the end of the battle, Vladilena blamed herself and wished she had found the map earlier. She apologized to them for what had happened, but was quickly surprised when they told her that people like her didn't care about the death of one of their own and would quickly forget about it by dinner time, as they didn't have much to do here. They accused her of hypocrisy. Then Theodo poured his anger on her and told her that people like her would continue to treat them like trash and not recognize them as human beings, but rather see them as inferior. He told her that treating them kindly and communicating with them daily would not change the reality of the situation, because she did not even bother to ask them their real names. He told her that they were not fighting on the battlefield of their own free will, but because her race had forced them to face death every day. Every word he uttered tore Vladilena's heart apart even more, and made her realize how much hatred they harbored towards her and her ancestors. While Theodo was venting his anger, Raiden stopped him from continuing and told Vladilena to end the call because they were not in the mood to talk to her kindly. Theodo ended up blaming himself for Kai's death. The next day, the rest returned to their daily activities, while Theodo remained distracted. The others noticed that he had drawn a fox with angry features, so Karina asked him if he was upset about what he had said to Vladilena earlier, but he pretended not to care. He ended up being attacked by Karina, Anju, and Rekka, who took his coat. Anju then repaired the button that had fallen off during the battle, while Daya told him that he had acted out of character yesterday when he vented his anger at Vladilena, reminding him of the fox leader. Anju then confessed that they were all jealous because he had managed to meet someone like him and had become important to him, as she did not consider anyone belonging to the Alba to be of value to her. After that, Theodo went to the workshop and found Shini repairing his vehicle. It occurred to him to ask what the fox commander would have said to Vladilena if he had been in his place, but then he decided to let it go before hearing Shini's answer and told him that this white so would not communicate with them again. Shini told him that the fox commander would not have said that and knew very well that this was what he believed deep down, which made Theodo feel ashamed. In the evening, Shini went to his room and wrote Kai's name with the victims of war and wondered if Vladilena wanted to say something to him. The next day, Vladilena went to Henrietta, and when she told her what had happened yesterday, she told her that they had to accept that they lived in their own world, but Vladilena felt that she would never forgive herself if she thought of acting that way. Henrietta told her that it was impossible to think of going to Sector 86 and fighting with them, and that all she had to do now was pamper herself. When she told her that she had made her favorite cake, Vladilena told her that she was not in the mood for sweets. Henrietta was surprised that she considered not asking them their real names a big deal, since they didn't need to know their identities because they would never meet them. Vladilena told her her that she knew her name because they were friends and that a person's name expresses their identity, which made her realize that she hadn't treated them like human beings all this time. Henrietta told her that she was overreacting and that she and the members of 86 were not friends, and that if she really thought of them as human beings, she would have asked them their real names when she first started communicating with them. She advised her that now was the right time to stop getting close to them. Vladilena felt resentful that she opposed them so strongly, so she told her that she had no other choice because they were different from them in so many ways that getting involved with them in any way would lead to regret. Then I added that the war had already begun and they could no longer back down. I suggested that she return to the lab and stop leading the unit for a while, but Vladilena refused and left the lab in anger. On her way, she remembered when she went with her father Valkav to the battlefield, and while they were flying in the helicopter, they were suddenly attacked by 86 vehicles. At that moment, her uncle Jerome's voice interrupted her thoughts, and she told him that she couldn't stop thinking about what had happened in the past. She added that despite her sadness over what had happened to her father, she was happy that she had been able to see Sector 86 with her own eyes, which allowed her to hold on to the values that their country had abandoned. Jerome told her that her father was a good man who aspired to make their country a better place. He then expressed his shame that he had died at the hands of the enemy that day, but in the end, he was only an observer, something Valkav did not realize before his death, as he subconsciously felt that the members of Sector 86 were the only ones who died on the battlefield, which was why he took her there. Jerome expressed his desire that Vladilena not become like him and told her that she was doing a good job and that he was responsible for assigning her to lead a difficult unit because he wanted her to experience the reality of these people for herself, but that she was no longer obliged to do so. Vladilena refused to give up her position and wanted to continue working as the head of the spearhead unit. Jerome looked at her and asked her if she still upheld the values that their country stood for. He told her that values are considered values because they are unattainable, and that pursuing them despite knowing this fact is foolish. After that, Vladilena left, returning home, lost in thought about what Theodo had said. When she felt overwhelmed, she rushed to the war victims cemetery as fast as she could and decided to call Shine. When he answered her call, she apologized to him for what had happened yesterday and what had happened before that. Then she told him her full real name and asked him to tell her their names. He told her that she shouldn't be upset by what Theodo had said to her, as what he had said did not represent everyone's beliefs because they knew that she had not imposed this situation on them and could not fix it herself. She told him that it was rude to communicate with them without knowing their names, but he told her that there was no need for that, as they were forced to wear identification badges on the barrage, even though the fleet could not be intercepted and that the processor's files were encrypted from them, all so that they would not be treated as human beings like themselves. Vladilena felt angry and told him that this was cowardly. She confessed that she had been thinking of escaping at some point, but she did not want to be a coward forever. She begged him to tell her their real names, and Shine had no choice but to grant her request. She began to write their names in her notebook. After she finished writing down everyone's names, she heard rustling sounds coming from him, and he told her that he was carving the name Kai since the 86 did not have graves, so they cut off the limbs of his unit and promised that when one of them died, they would carve his name on a piece of his vehicle until the last survivor took the rest to their final destination. And it always ended up with him, the last survivor, so he considered this part of his job in the unit. Vladilena was surprised by the fact that he had been doing this for 5 years, and when she asked him how many people had died so far, he replied that there were 561, and he still remembered them all because he felt responsible for taking all those who had fought alongside him to their final destination. Vladilena realized that this was why everyone called him the Soul Collector, and she told him that she had never faced the people she had left to die and had only felt bad about it and wanted to apologize to everyone. Shini decided to take her to them so she could express her feelings to them, and she did not hesitate to apologize to everyone for what had happened yesterday and for her behavior throughout the past period. She told them her real name and that she had only recently realized that she had not been treating them as human beings. When she asked them to tell her their real names, Theodo felt angry and considered it annoying, as Shini had already told her their names, but she told him that she wanted them to tell her their names themselves. He blamed Shini for not keeping quiet, even though Shini knew very well that he regretted the way he had said it. Theodo was forced to tell her that the emblem on his vehicle was a laughing fox and that he had gotten it from his former commander, who was of the same race as her. He added that despite his strength, he was a cheerful and lively person to the point of stupidity, and he believed it was wrong to fight the members of 86 alone, so he returned to the battlefield with his guards, but they ended up dead. Then he told her that he was not asking her to do the same, but that he would not consider her one of them as long as she hid behind walls. Then he told her his name at the end of his speech, and all the members of 86 followed him. When it was Raiden's turn, he apologized to her because they had previously believed that with her daily communications, she was trying to act like a saint or a hypocrite. Nevertheless, he agreed with Theodo that they would not consider her one of them, and that nothing would change no matter what happened. He expressed their desire to continue chatting with her in order to pass the time. When he advised her to look for another job besides being in charge of their unit, she told him that she would continue to contact them if it would help them have a good time. While Shineri was on his way to his room, Vladilena noticed that he had not yet told her his name. He told her that he had forgotten, and when he told her his full name, he was shocked when she asked him if he knew someone named Shuri, nicknamed Doulahan. After Shanae remembered a glimpse of his memories with this person, he told her that he was his older brother. Vladilena remembered when she was about to die after the helicopter she was in crashed with her father and their guards, and after they all died, she trembled with fear when she saw one of the enemy vehicles advancing towards her and about to fire at her. Then one of the 86 soldiers' vehicles appeared just in time to save her. After successfully destroying the vehicle, the commander came out to check on her, and it turned out that he was Shuri, Shani's older brother. He then took her with him and offered her some candy. When he was about to leave, she told him what her father had said about them doing terrible things to 86 and asked him why he was protecting her despite that. He replied that they were part of the state and it was their duty to fight and protect their country, and that he considered it a matter of pride and vowed to continue fighting until the end. Shuri was surprised when she approached him and gave him his chocolate bar. He told her that he had a younger brother the same age as her and expected him to have grown up and become strong. He then divided the chocolate bar between them. When she asked him why she hadn't seen his brother, he told her that he couldn't go home yet. Then he took her inside his vehicle and introduced himself to her, telling her that he and his brother were originally from a neighboring country called the Empire of Gilead, which was the country that built the fleet. She was curious to ask him if he was not afraid of fighting, and he told her that he could not continue living unless he fought, and that he did not want to die because he wanted to see Shini when Vladilena returned to reality. She asked Shini what his brother was doing now, and he told her that he had died 5 years ago. Then he told her that he remembered that there was something he had to do after leaving the army, which was to find something he had been searching for 5 years. The next day, Vladilena was on her way to work when she ran into Henrietta, who was wearing her military uniform this time. They spent time eating cake after arriving as usual. Then Henrietta suggested that they go shopping for dresses for next week's party together. Vladilena remembered that she had to attend the party even though she was somewhat busy, so Henrietta told her that she had been unavailable lately and suggested that she ask one of the men to accompany her, especially since she had heard that she had met one of them. Henrietta told her that he was a 5-year-old boy. When Vladilena looked at the wall, she saw that Henrietta had posted pictures of her potential partners whom she had already rejected. She asked why, and Henrietta replied that her team had done it as a joke. Then she noticed that Vladilena's face had turned pale, so she wanted to make sure she was okay and warned her against excessive use of para-red, as sharing sensory data can lead to brain disorders. Vladilena told her that she had spent the night analyzing battle data, so Henrietta repeated that there was no point in offering her services to the members of 86. After leaving Henrietta's lab, she contacted Shini and told him that she did not want to go to the party for fear that a battle would start during it. He told her that they would be fine, and when she expressed surprise that her country was holding a party during wartime, he told her that nothing that happened within the walls affected them. He expressed his gratitude for her help in providing enemy analysis, but said that she should not spend her personal time doing so, as she would end up like him if she spent her time constantly focusing on the battlefield. Vladilena decided to take his advice and enjoy herself a little. When he asked her if the party was for the Revolution Festival, she wondered how he knew about it. He replied that he remembered watching fireworks as a child in a park with a fountain in front of the palace. Vladilena glanced out the window and, upon seeing the palace in question, asked him if he had lived in Sector 1 as a child. He told her that he only remembered going everywhere with his brother, and that he couldn't remember the faces or voices of any of his family members. She told him that Shuri cared a lot about him and wanted to return home to stay with him. While she was talking to him, she was surprised to see two lovers kissing nearby. She blushed with embarrassment and ran quickly to her room. Then she was surprised when Shanae told her that he was going to make some preparations with his friends, as they would have to fight a surprise battle shortly. She rushed back to the room, feeling confused because she had not received any warnings about an upcoming battle. When she asked him how he knew, she heard a commotion and found him asking her to end the call because there were many black sheep this time. She did not understand what he meant, and he told her that he would explain later. She refused to end the call because she would not know what would happen to them without the para-red. He told her that he had warned her in advance and could do no more. When he began attacking the enemies alone, Vladilena was surprised to hear screams and cries for help echoing continuously, which terrified her. She couldn't bear it until she remembered Kai saying her last words. After that, she returned home feeling weak due to the effect of the para-red on her brain. When she thought about using it again, the voices crept back into her head along with glimpses of unknown memories, and everything stopped with Kai screaming that she didn't want to die. It ended with Vladilena watching her reflection in the balcony glass, feeling ashamed. On the other side, it turned out that the enemy vehicles were using the frequency of the corpses' voices obtained from the members of 86 to distract them. During the fight, Shini was surprised to hear Kay's voice among them, as he had burned her body so that he couldn't obtain it. After that, the members of 86 succeeded in defeating the enemy, and after returning to headquarters, Raiden said that he felt as if everyone would lose consciousness from exhaustion, and guessed that they felt lonely because Vladilena did not contact them after hearing the voices and expected that she would not contact them again. But she was quickly surprised to hear Shine talking to her, and she apologized to him for losing control of herself that day. When she asked about the voices she heard, he told her that they were the voices of ghosts who had died but were still there, and he believed that he would die one day, which was why he could hear those voices. He added that their enemy was a defeated army with no reason to live after their empire disappeared. She then realized that the reason he knew when the fleet fleet would arrive was because he could hear them. He told her that he always hears them, even while he sleeps. She wondered if he could hear them now and how far away they were. He replied that he did not know the exact distance, but he was aware of every fleet behind the borders of the former republic, and that he had grown accustomed to these voices as it had been going on for a long time. He then asked her if the government expected the war to end in 2 years, as Theoto had heard this information from their former commander, and also knew that the fleet had a timer that would run out in 2 years. She told him that the enemy's central processing unit was designed based on the human brain, which meant that it would stop working in 2 years. He guessed that they might need to replace the design with another one using materials available on the battlefield, such as the brains of dead humans. Then he told her that the enemy's nervous system was more advanced than any other creature, so burying the bodies of the 86 was forbidden so that their brains would rot and the enemy could not obtain them. However, they were able to take Kai's brain and make a copy of it as it was before their death. Vladilena realized that these were the so-called black sheep, the enemy's vehicles that hid among the ordinary vehicles and made ghostly sounds. Shini told her that they had become commonplace now, which made them vulnerable to losing the war before the end of the 2 years, as the fleet carrying the new designs would not stop working. She asked about the members of 86, and he told her that only the children fighting alongside him remained, assuring her that they would all die soon. He asked her if her people would go to war when that happened. Vladilena couldn't respond because she couldn't comprehend the idea that the war was continuing, and she told him that the enemy's fleets had been reduced by half compared to previous years. He told her that these were only the fleets they could monitor, but there were many more at the rear of the army. He added that the black sheep were still capable of better treatment than the regular fleet, which had suffered great damage when it took over the brains of the dead, and wondered what would happen if they obtained an undamaged brain belonging to a commander leading the fleet. Vladilena was shocked that this was not a hypothesis and that they actually existed. Shini told her that he could hear their voices, as the commander's voices carried very far, and that one of them was located behind Combat Sector 1. Vladilena thought that they had to destroy the fleets before all 86 of them were wiped out, and she vowed to do her best to help them, as she also wanted to help him stay alive until his term of service ended and he left the army. Shanae remembered when he was young and was fighting, and ended up inside a large library. After the fighting ended, he wandered alone outside until he ended up in front of a vehicle bearing the logo of the Reaper, inside which was a decomposing corpse. He then realized that he had found Shuri's body after his death and that his head had already been taken. Years later, the members of 86 were suffering from the intense heat as they wandered around in their vehicles and got to know each other, as each of them belonged to a different country or region. After Daya, Haruto, and Luis became friends, they couldn't stop talking about the girls they admired. Then Theoto and Nico joined them, and Daya ended up being exposed in front of everyone after Theoto said loudly that he wanted to talk to Anju. Then he was surprised when she walked towards him, so he tried to make up an excuse and asked her if she was the only girl in their group. Nico told them that he had heard that there was a rich girl who worked as an officer in charge of the units, and then they all started mocking and bullying her. Theoto drew a caricature of her, imagining her with the body of a woman and the head of a pig, and they all imagined her reaction when she started talking to them, while Daya sarcastically said that she might be a goddess who had descended to Earth to save them. After that, everyone spent their time dancing and playing while Shinebi watched them from afar. Kei joined him, wondering if they were under the influence of alcohol, but he told her that they were just enjoying themselves, as the cups contained only water. She looked around and saw many flowering trees and remembered that at first, the people heading into battle hated cherry blossoms because they have a short lifespan, blooming and falling at the same time. Then she pointed to Shini on her boat and told him that she was the one who made the emblem on it. When she asked him about the emblem on his boat, he told her that it did not belong to him. When Nico invited them to join them, she expressed her happiness that there had been no surprise attack while they were here. Then the girls joined them and told Kei the common story about his emblem, that he was supposed to be a reaper looking for his lost head, and they guessed that if he removed the scarf from his neck, they would not find his head. Then they all told him that they were looking forward to working with him as their leader. Raiden told him that he had become widely known among everyone, and then everyone was surprised by the sudden appearance of shooting stars in the sky and rushed to see them, leaving him behind. 4 months later, the members of 86 fought a war in the same place under the leadership of Vladilena after losing many of their comrades that day. Then they were surprised to find themselves facing Scorpion-type vehicles that outnumbered and outpowered them. Despite this, they continued to fight them. Following Vladilena's plan, however, Rekka's vehicle was severely damaged in the middle of the battle, forcing Daya to risk his own life to rescue her. However, he ended up falling after his vehicle was destroyed. He felt that he was on the verge of death after a group of small burning robots jumped towards him and his ammunition ran out. Before he could finish his last sentence, the robots caused a loud explosion in his vehicle. Now on the other side, Rekka was fighting to the last breath and tried to shoot the enemy vehicle with her pistol. When she realized that her death was inevitable, she decided to end her life herself and told Shini that she would rely on him to continue fighting until the end. Shini and his remaining comrades continued to fight despite the loss of their friends. After the war ended in the morning, Shini asked Vladilena to end the connection as he was going to shoot Daya before he turned into a monster. Vladilena refused to end the call and told him that it was her duty as a leader to stay with them until the end. After giving Daya a mercy killing, he was surprised to hear a noise near his vehicle. After returning to headquarters, everyone noticed that Anju was not well, but she pretended to be strong in front of them. In the evening, Shinee and Raiden were talking about it, and Shinee told him that it was only a matter of time before everyone died. Raiden wondered if he intended to continue fighting even if he was the last survivor in order to fulfill his dream of building a tomb for his brother. Shinee told him that this was all he could do after his brother refused to forgive him before he died. Raiden then realized that he was still obsessed with his brother's head, while Shinee entered his room and carved the names of his comrades who had died that day to join the rest. Then he remembered the voice he heard after Daya took his life, the voice of Shori, who kept blaming him for everything that had happened, and he remembered when he had his hand around his neck as a child, telling him that he was the reason for their parents' death and that he would also be the reason for his death. The next day, Vladilena was eating the birthday cake Henrietta had made for her. Then she gave her a small gift. Vladilena was surprised that she had brought another gift and told her that she had already received her first gift. She then wondered why Henrietta had chosen a rocking chair as a gift for her, and Henrietta told her that someone named Nikolaus had given it to her, but she wasn't using it. Vladilena's recent appearance suggested to her that she needed some sleep, so she thought it would be a suitable gift for her. When Henrietta asked her about what she had come to ask her, Vladilena felt confused and wondered if the bearer red could theoretically affect the brain. She replied that in this case, they would open the therapist's skull and conduct a thorough examination of his brain, which is what they intended to do with Shinee. Upon completion, they would throw him away, but when it came to an officer, he would be transferred to another unit after the examination. Vladilena was shocked to hear this and decided to leave quickly. Henrietta then told her that she would make the usual cake next year. In the evening, Vladilena sat in her room looking at the drawing she had made to imagine what the 86 members looked like, and she felt sorry that Shinee had to give his comrades a merciful death to prevent them from becoming part of the enemy fleet. After that, she went to Jerome and told him what had happened in the last battle. He asked her how many vehicles they had left, and she replied that there were 16 members of 86 left. She then made a suggestion that might help reduce the number of casualties by using a military mortar and supporting the 86 forces with it. He told her that the mortar needed to be reloaded after firing and that it was located in the middle of a minefield, making its extraction very risky. He added that he did not intend to do this for the 86th, as they could be replaced. Unlike the state's soldiers, Vladilena felt angry at his disregard for the lives of the 86th and his treatment of them as scum. When she tried to object and tell him that they were human beings like them and were suffering on the battlefield, he told her that he had warned her in advance not to get involved with them. He then gave her a report and told her that he intended to assign them the task of destroying a fleet base under construction near their area. She was surprised that he intended to involve them in another battle before compensating those who had been lost, and told him that they needed replacements, as was the case with other units. He told her that if the base was not destroyed before it was completed, the first to suffer would be the members of 86 themselves, and that she had to make them carry out the mission if she wanted to save them. Vladilena was forced to submit to the current situation and told Shinai about the mission. She apologized to him for not being able to make them wait until replacements for those they had lost could be provided. Shinai told her that they already knew about the fleet's base and that he believed it was just a trap. She was surprised that he agreed to attack the base even though he knew it was a trap. Then she felt frustrated at her failure to obtain permission to use the mortar. They told her that they had never seen it used before and that they had not planned to rely on it in the first place. Before she ended the call, she was surprised when Shinai asked her if she was suffering from something after noticing the tension in her voice. He then asked her to take a break and suggested she eat some candy to relieve her stress. Vladilena smiled and told him that he was suddenly talking like his brother, and she remembered that he had given her half a bar of chocolate when things got bad. Shinesi asked her what his facial expressions were like when he was talking about him, and she replied that he was smiling and had kind eyes. Without realizing it, she told him that the time she spent talking to him about anything was very important to her. She quickly blushed with embarrassment and ended the call. A few days later, Vladilena decided to help 86 by allowing supplies to be sent to them through the Republican Army. When the employee asked what was in the box, she told him it contained special ammunition and then bribed him to keep quiet and not ask any more questions. After that, Vladilena returned and noticed some people making preparations for the upcoming Revolution Festival. She ended up stumbling and falling in front of them, which made her feel embarrassed, so she quickly left the place. She returned to her office and used the barrier to contact 86. After finishing her work in the evening, she was surprised on her way home by the start of the Revolution Festival celebrations, with everyone taking pictures together and setting off fireworks in the sky. She remembered when Karina told her that they didn't need her for anything and that nothing would change if they didn't have a unit leader. She also wondered if trying to resist the madness while she was there would distract them, so Vladilena wondered if they were bothered by hearing the voices of their ghost comrades all the time. Then her thoughts were interrupted by the sound of a child in pain after falling to the ground, and she remembered what Karina had told her, that people like them had to listen to the screams of death all the time and that the best way for them to die was when the vehicle exploded with them inside. As she listened to the suffering of the members of 86, she saw everyone around her celebrating and continuing to live as if there was no suffering in this world. She returned home and contacted them via Parareed, but was surprised to find that Shinee was not there. Raiden told her that he was tired and had gone to bed early, so she wondered if he was tired because of the ghost voices he heard. Theoto told her that she couldn't help them with that, and that they sometimes felt tired from the idea of being in that sector. She told them that she knew very well that tension was increasing among them with the increase in the number of deaths after each battle, and that they had not been given a new member since she took command. She decided to make it happen faster and asked them to hold on a little longer. The next day, Vladilena went to see Jerome and told him that she couldn't wait any longer and that he had to give 86 some new members to make up for the losses. As she was about to beg him, he told her that the resupply plans for the Eastern Theater had been finalized and asked her to continue doing her duty until the supplies arrived. Vladilena felt relieved that they would finally get some support, while Jerome reminded her of the date of the Revolution Festival and that she should choose appropriate outfits to represent her family in the best possible way during the ceremony. When the time came for the ceremony, Vladilena chose a dark black dress and succeeded in making the men not want to ask her to dance. When Henrietta arrived, she was immediately surprised when she saw her and told her that she looked like she was in mourning. While they were talking, Henrietta was surprised when she saw one of the men who had previously wanted to date her attending the ceremony at the party and quickly ran away before he noticed her. Then Vladilena received a surprise call from Shini. She thought something was wrong, but he told her that he had thought of calling her when she didn't call at the usual time. He also wanted to tell her that the ammunition shipment had arrived and expressed his gratitude to her for giving them the opportunity to celebrate the festival with fireworks. She told him that she was sure the fireworks would look more beautiful in the sky in their area. Then she wanted to make a promise with him that they would watch the fireworks together one day after he left the army. She wished that his friends could have seen the fireworks before they died. He told her that he was sure they were grateful now. Anju was finally able to cry, as she was one of those people who kept their feelings inside. Shine expressed his happiness that she still remembered Shori because he couldn't remember him. When he asked her if she would continue to remember them after they all died, she felt sad and promised him that she would not let anyone else die. That morning, Shini received a shipment of ammunition from the state army and had to endure their mockery and belittlement so as not to cause trouble for Vladilena. After they left, he opened the box and found a large set of fireworks inside. The others were excited when they saw the fireworks, while Corinna felt angry and thought about telling Vladilena to stop getting close to them because the situation had escalated and she was now sending them gifts. She thought it would be best for everyone if they told her to stop communicating with them, since the others were keeping quiet about not telling her. Anju remembered what Kai had said, that she wasn't a bad person, but that they shouldn't get involved with her, and she guessed that this was why Shani and Raiden hadn't told her about it, because they thought it might hurt her. While she was thinking, Karina wanted to make sure Anju was okay, as she had never bathed with another girl before Anju told her that she didn't mind now. Then she remembered Daya expressing his admiration for her hair when they first met, even though he knew the real reason she had grown it long. Karina then remembered the first time she saw Shini euthanize one of their comrades, and she felt sad. She wondered who would euthanize him a mercy kill when his turn came. After that, they fought 86 battles against the enemy fleet, and when Vladilena warned them of the existence of long-range artillery, Shini was shocked by the possibility of clashing with his brother's ghost in battle. But Vladilena decided to order them to retreat and not risk facing a super vehicle. After the 86 successfully escaped, Vladilena promised them that they would get new members as soon as possible so that they could fight comfortably without worrying about a shortage of soldiers. She couldn't control her anger, as the general had already told her that their request for supplies had been approved. Shini wanted to consult with his comrades before telling her what he wanted to say, and when he got their approval, he told her to stop helping them because nothing would change, no matter how hard she tried, and the army would not send replacements so that they could be completely wiped out, which was the original plan of her country. Vladilena couldn't comprehend what he was saying, so Haruto told her that they would send a new batch of soldiers after they all died, as they had received a shipment of new vehicles for them. Raiden added that the army would not allow any of them to survive, and Theodo told her that recruiting them for only 5 years was just a lie so that they could easily eliminate them. Then they told her that the army was deliberately doing this because they did not want the residents of Sector 86 to cause a revolution, so they considered themselves smart because they had managed to survive until now, and the rest considered them heroes because they were still fighting despite knowing their inevitable fate. Vladilena realized the horror of the fact that they were being forced to fight until the last one of them died, and that Sector 86 was nothing but a huge massacre. Karina told her that no one who went to war had ever returned and that they were not allowed to leave the camps. She asked them why they chose to continue fighting despite all this, and why they did not think of escaping or taking revenge on the Republic. Raiden told her that revenge was not difficult, as all they had to do was sit back and allow the fleet to invade the country's borders, but they would end up dead too. He then told her that he refused to do so because an elderly woman from Alba had protected him in Sector 9 when he was 12 years old, and Shini was raised by a priest from Alba who was one of those who refused to give up their land and ended up being sent to the camps. He added that some of them had Alba blood and each of them had a past with this race. But even though most of the Alba were just a bunch of scum, there were good people among them who defended them as best they could, so they each decided to go their own way and chose to die fighting as long as their fate was death. A few days later, Shini was carrying several pieces of vehicles belonging to their comrades who had died earlier, and told Raiden that Kano's team had not found Chissy's vehicle. Raiden told him that what happened in the last battle was not his fault, but that the fleet fleet wanted to test their new weapon, which resulted in the deaths of 4 of them at once. Shanae thought that if this weapon was completed, it could cause the fall of the Republic. While they were talking, Shanae heard Shuri's voice, and this time he managed to locate him and found that he was also pursuing him. He asked Raiden if he wanted to commit suicide before he died tomorrow, but Raiden told him that they would all follow him until the end. And meanwhile, Vladilena couldn't stop thinking about what the members of 86 had told her. When she looked at all the missions they had carried out, she became furious and ended up visiting Henrietta late at night to ask for her help. Henrietta told her that there was nothing they could do for them and advised her to give up and not think about it too much, which made Vladilena angry, and she yelled at her to stop acting like a bad person. Henrietta became angry and told her that she was the one who should stop acting like a hero because there was nothing they could do to save them. She then pointed to the house next door and told her that the neighbors were scientists on her father's research team and that their families had been close. But everything changed after the war began because their sons were members of 86. She added that they were brothers she used to accompany to school and play with during recess. But after a while, they stopped coming to school and her classmates began to bully her because she was friends with people with dirty skin. As they put it, at that moment, she felt a lump in her throat because she was unable to do anything. However, her younger brother, who was the same age as her, knew nothing about it and wanted to continue playing with her in their yard, but she refused and they got into a fight and she slipped and called him dirty skinned. Henrietta felt afraid of herself for daring to say that to him. When her father wanted to take them in, she refused and told him that they were not her friends and that she would not put herself in danger for them. They ended up being sent to the camp the next day, while all Henrietta could do was convince herself that there was nothing she could have done. Then she told Vladilena that she was just as guilty as her, even though she tried to act like a saint. She then took her to the place where the brothers lived and told her that they had a strange power inherited from their mother, whereby they were able to know what another person was feeling without speaking to them. She added that this talent had aroused her father's interest, but when the army discovered their ability, they ordered her father to perfect a device that mimicked their power to replace the radio. The result was the Para-Red device, which she used to communicate with the members of 86. Vladilena was shocked when he told her that this device was created by sacrificing many of the inhabitants of 86, using them as test subjects, as the device relied on the sharing of words between its users, which made animals unsuitable for testing. In addition, all the participants in the experiment were children, and they all ended up dying in agony. As a result, her father committed suicide because he couldn't bear it, and he didn't die as a result of an error in the Para-Red settings, as rumored. This made her realize that she deserved to die because she had abandoned her friends like him, and she decided then to take over her father's research, including the victims. Henrietta added that Vladilena was no different from her, but might even be worse, because she deliberately got involved with 86 more and kept them alive, and now they had been ordered to die. She blamed her, saying that if she had neglected her work and left them to die, they would not have been assigned a suicide mission. Vladilena left her home after Henrietta told her that she hated her and did not want to see her again. As the days passed, Vladilena was lost in her thoughts, torn between what Henrietta had said and her previous pledge not to let any of them die. She then decided to go to Jerome and tell him of her desire to cancel the reconnaissance mission that 86 had been assigned to, because it made no sense for them to continue advancing toward enemy territory to their deaths for no reason. He told her that it was in the country's best interest for all 86 members to die. He added that if people found out what they had done to them at the end of the war, the Republic would become a pariah state, and history would describe them as tyrants. He aimed to exterminate them all and wipe them out of existence so that no one could fabricate accusations against the state in any way. Vladilena told him that they were part of the state and that they had to protect them, as the saint had said to take care of every member of their people. Jerome told her that this country was full of stupid and evil people, as they had previously executed the saint out of greed for wealth, and that she should not expect anything from people like them. He then told her that it was too late to seek freedom and equality. Vladilena refused to face the truth and accused him of trying to justify his sense of despair. He told her that she was free to talk about her hopes and aspirations, but that she would not be able to convince anyone of what was in her mind, as hope and despair were two sides of the same coin. She wanted something and unable to obtain it. Vladilena surrendered to reality and informed Shini of the mission they had been assigned. She apologized for her inability to do anything and tried to convince him not to accept it and to escape. He told her that everyone would die one day and that he could not blame anyone because that day had come early. Vladilena was angry because he had come to terms with the idea of his death and that of all his companions, so he told her that they would not die, but would finally have the opportunity to follow the path they had chosen and become free after reaching the place they wanted to go, and that they must fight to move forward. Then Vladilena remembered the goal he was pursuing and that he did not want to die until he had achieved it. She realized that he was seeking to destroy his brother and begged him to give up the idea of fighting because he would not be able to face his brother, even if he became an enemy. He told her that he would not be able to get anywhere without getting rid of him, and before ending the call, he asked her to stop communicating with them because he did not want her to hear Shuri's last words. The call ended after she heard their plan of action against the enemy. Now on the other side, Shini found that everything was ready for their final battle, and Lev told him not to fight recklessly as usual, but Shini could not promise him that. Then he placed Haruto's name with the rest of the dead in the box. Raiden told him that he felt sorry for his departure, as he would have gone with them on an enjoyable trip if he had been alive. The remaining members of 86 prepared to leave, and each of them bid farewell to the headquarters where they had stayed together in their own way. The next day, the 5 remaining members of 86 sat down to eat their last meal together before leaving. They remembered when they had all gathered in this place on their first day and vowed not to become like pigs and to fight to the end. On their way through Theodo, he expressed his annoyance that Vladilena had not contacted them before the mission began, and Anju agreed with him that she should have said goodbye to them before they met their demise. When they reached their vehicles, they were surprised to find snacks in each vehicle and quickly realized that Lev had put them there. Then they prepared for their last mission together and began to move toward enemy territory. After they left, the headquarters was completely empty. On the other hand, Shuri remembered his last moments when he almost caused Shini's death after being overcome with anger. He kept blaming him for the death of their parents after they were forced to go to war because of him. He admitted that what happened was not his fault, but he wanted to protect him so badly. After the enemy took his head, he ended up as the commander of the fleet that would wage war against Shini and his companions. He realized then that no matter what he did, he would not be able to protect his younger brother, so he would ensure his death so that they could remain together forever. He began to move toward the vehicles of the members of 86. The members of 86 realized that they were about to face all of the enemy's vehicles after seeing a huge army of them heading towards them and hearing the voices of the ghosts growing louder. Shini was happy when he found his brother among them and ordered his squad to continue advancing and try to hide in the forest until he defeated them. Raiden refused to carry out his orders and decided to continue advancing with him and not let him die. Then the enemy army attacked first, and Shini rushed toward them enthusiastically to get Shuri. When the clash between the two sides began, they noticed that the enemy was trying to separate them from Shini and that they were not fighting in the usual way. Raiden realized that this was the work of Shuri, who wanted to spend time with his younger brother. Shini was surprised that his bullets had no effect on the enemy vehicles, and he quickly realized that Shuri wanted him to get as close to him as possible so that he could finish him off with his own hands, while the rest of them were trying their best to reduce the number of enemies. But their numbers continued to increase. Then they were shocked to see missiles forming wings in the sky before raining down on their heads like rain. Suddenly, Raiden felt that someone wanted to share his visual perception, and when he realized that Vladilena was communicating with them in the midst of battle, he felt angry and told her that it could cause her blindness, as they were about to face weapons that they were not authorized for her to use. She told them that disobeying orders and using weapons without permission would not cause her death, as the state did not follow any logical rules, making it unnecessary for her to do so. Raiden burst out laughing when she said that she was not doing it for them, but because the Republic would be in danger if the enemy broke through their ranks. When she asked them about Shini, he told her that he had gone to fight his brother. Meanwhile, Shini managed to sneak up on Shuri's vehicle until he was standing directly in front of it. He then decided to manipulate him by moving quickly between the trees of the forest so as not to give him a clear view. When the moment was right, Shini was able to jump towards him and cause serious damage to his vehicle, but he was surprised when he found the vehicle firing sticky arms at him, and Shuri was able to catch him and throw him a long distance away. On the other side, the members of 86 saw that the enemy was suddenly retreating and felt relieved that they would not have to face such a large number of enemies. However, they were quickly shocked when they saw Shini's vehicle lying on its side and Shuri heading towards him to finish him off. Vladilena asked Karina to send her the enemy's coordinates in exchange for allowing her to attack them with targeting waves. She almost refused her request for a moment, but decided to trust her in order to save Shini. Now, on the other hand, Shuri was happy that he was close to reuniting with his brother and decided to get rid of his human body first, but he found his companions advancing towards him, fighting the rest of his followers, so he decided to get rid of them himself. But he was surprised by a sudden missile landing at full speed towards him, so he became angry because it might hit Shini, and decided to stand between them and take the full brunt of the damage alone in order to protect him. After Shuri was severely damaged by the missiles that hit him all at once, the others tried to wake Shiny, but he was unconscious and bleeding heavily. Then he felt Shuri's hands tearing at his neck, as if trying to strangle him as he had done in the past. He realized that Shuri had not forgiven him, so he decided to get rid of him and grant him eternal rest. Then he jumped towards him and said goodbye before firing his missile directly at the weakest part of his vehicle. When Shuri saw his face, he realized that he no longer needed him to hold his hand as before, and apologized to him before meeting his end. On the other side, Shini felt a lump in his throat when he remembered Shuri's features, and began to cry like a child after causing his death. By morning, the war was over, and the 5 were able to survive thanks to Vladilena's help. Shine decided to give up his tie on the other hand. While Shine was crying, Raiden asked her to cut the connection because he might not want anyone to hear him now. Then it turned out that Henrietta had conspired to help her after Vladilena went to her yesterday and asked her to help her use her sense of sight through the para-red because she was about to use the Republic Army's artillery control system. Henrietta initially refused to get involved with her and be part of her plan, but she was shocked when she found out that she knew Shini and that he was the boy she used to play with when she was little and whom she had abandoned. Vladilena told her that there weren't many members of Sector 1 who were their age and had an older brother, and that he was the leader she communicated with all the time through para-read, and his alias was Soulcatcher. Henrietta wondered if he had told told him anything about her and thought that he still hated her. But Vladilena gave her the choice between helping her or ignoring the matter as she had done before and abandoning him for the third time. After the battle ended, Henrietta was about to leave, and when Vladilena told her that Shini was still alive thanks to her, she said that she wasn't the one who saved him. After she left, Vladilena felt relieved that her plan had succeeded. Then she received a call from Shini telling her that he could hear her voice during the fight. Vladilena felt relieved that they were all safe after they expressed their gratitude to her and told her that they were surprised by her sudden transformation into a bad girl. Karina sarcastically said that she thought she was planning to blow them up with the enemy's vehicles. Then Shanae expressed his gratitude to her in particular because he was able to lay his brother to rest in peace thanks to her. She told him that it was a coincidence and promised to do her best for them all next time. Then she was shocked when she heard them planning to continue advancing to the enemy base despite their vehicles being damaged and running out of ammunition. They felt relieved that no one was chasing them and that they would be able to go as far as possible. They told her to do her best with the next unit after their death. Then Vladilena rushed out of her headquarters while the members of 86 were chatting on their way to their deaths. Vladilena kept running as fast as she could until she heard that they had reached the borders of the Republic and were happy that they had finally made it out of 86. Vladilena stopped running from exhaustion and began crying. Then she found Shanae telling her that they would continue moving forward before communication between them was cut off and their vehicles disappeared from the satellites. The members of 86 succeeded in going outside their sector and seeing new landscapes they had never seen before. They inspected everything around them and tried different things, as if they were enjoying life for the first time after the hardships of war. After several days, they ended up standing near a beach and found that they could not cross the sea with their vehicles, and they were unfamiliar with the area they were currently in. At that point, Shini wondered if they should continue moving forward. They decided to take a break for a while after becoming free to enjoy themselves a little, then spent the whole day near the sea. The next day, Raiden felt as if they were the last people alive in the world, so Shini sarcastically said that he never imagined someone like him could be romantic. Then Shini thought that their companions who had gone before them might not be dead and felt that they had only disappeared. When Raiden asked him how many there were, he told him that there were 576, including Shuri. Then Raiden was surprised to find that he had already carved his name using their robotic puppy. Then he wondered how far he would be able to take them with him, and he replied that there was a limit to the number of days they could continue without supplies. When Raiden asked him if Vladilena had asked him before what he intended to do after finishing his service, he replied that he had not thought about it before. After that, the five of them sat down to eat together, then decided to head to a town near them, which was a city in the old empire. They continued to explore the abandoned city, and Shini thought that they all belonged to different cities originally, and that if it weren't for the war, they would never have met. Raiden asked him if the city brought back memories, and he told him that his parents were born there, but he had never visited the city and did not remember his parents. Suddenly, he stopped near a dark tunnel and was about to enter it, but Raiden grabbed him and told him not to run away. Shini told him that they were in enemy territory and that it was natural for their voices to continue echoing in his head, but that it wasn't so bad as long as they didn't have to fight. In the evening, Anju and Karina enjoyed their time taking a warm bath while the rest sat listening to their nonsense. After that, Karina sat contemplating Shini as he slept, feeling happy, while Raiden told them that he had been laughing a lot lately. The rest noticed that he had become kinder and was making jokes while talking, and they interpreted this as him feeling at peace after achieving his goal, while Raiden felt that he no longer had anything. The next day, they were surprised to find him gone when they woke up. They found that he had left his vehicle and the para-red, but had taken his gun with him. They searched for him throughout the abandoned city until they found him in a zoo. Raiden was shocked when he found him heading toward one of the enemy vehicles, so he rushed toward him and told Shini that there was no need to worry, as the vehicle was damaged and couldn't move. He added that he noticed the vehicle was slowly approaching them and did not appear to be from a reconnaissance unit. He intended to ignore it, but he felt as if someone inside the vehicle had been calling him since yesterday. He approached the vehicle and heard the ghost inside saying that he wanted to go home. Shiny took out his gun and decided to give his former colleague a merciful death with a single bullet. He then asked Raiden if there were any countries that had survived besides the Republic, and Raiden told him that there were places beyond the old borders that the enemy could not reach. Shini thought that they could go to one of these places and live there in peace if there were people living there, and the end of their journey would be their arrival in paradise and a new beginning in another country. The robot remembered the past when Shini was repairing some malfunctions in his vehicle and found him staring at him. This was their first encounter, and Shine realized that he was the only survivor after the death of his kind, and the robot was in a pitiful state. Shine decided then to take him with him until they returned to the squad's headquarters. When he returned, he found a delegation from the state army appointing new members to the sector to fight with him. While they were treating the rest with contempt, Shini approached one of them and pretended to attack him, then picked up a nail from the ground and threw it at the wall, which caused surprise among the rest and the robot as well. Since then, the robot has been living with them, listening to their stories and sharing their moments inside the headquarters until Lev decided to send him with the last remaining members of the squad and asked him to keep them safe. The last face he saw was that of his close friend Shini before he was blown up by one of the enemy's missiles, which launched a thunderous attack on the last survivors of the 86 members. Karina regained consciousness inside inside her wrecked vehicle and found her comrades still fighting with everything they had. Some of them were forced to fight with pistols after the vehicle ran out of ammunition. While Shani was fighting the enemy vehicles, she was surprised to see the robot take a thunderous blow instead of him, leaving him unable to move. The next day, after the battle ended, Shanae examined the robot and found that he would not be able to take it with them any further after it had completely broken down. He decided to take a piece of it and engrave his name on it to immortalize his memory along with all those who had died. He then told Raiden that he did not think they could continue much further, as his was the only vehicle that could still move, and they did not have much food or ammunition left. They decided to take turns driving Shanae's vehicle. Karina decided to drive his vehicle first, as she was the first to crash her vehicle and was not as exhausted as the others. They agreed that they would leave the fighting to whoever was driving when enemy vehicles appeared at any time. After that, they continued on their way forward. Then Shinny noticed that the weather was changing, so he asked Karina to head towards a cave on a slope. They ended up sheltering from the heavy rain inside it, ready to fight if they noticed the enemy's presence. The next day, they continued on their way after the rain stopped and realized that they were approaching the enemy base after noticing that the number of vehicles was increasing. As time passed, they ended up heading to a school in an abandoned village, and it was the first time Karina had seen what the school looked like. She decided that they should stay there for the night, and the others agreed. When she entered the classroom, she stared at what was written on the blackboard while Anju played the role of the teacher and the others played the students, which made Karina happy and made her feel like a student. In the evening, they used the wood from the tables and books to light a fire for warmth at night, and they all sat around the fire chatting. The next day, they found that they had enough food to survive for only one more day, so they decided to continue their journey with Anju taking the lead. They ended up at a dead end, so they thought about climbing the rock wall, but Shinny told her to find another way. While she was driving the vehicle, he decided to take over because he was bored, and everyone agreed with him. They were bored because there was nothing to do but contemplate the natural scenery. After Shiny took the wheel, they were surprised when he detached the vehicle from the trailer pulling it, then demolished part of the wall to separate himself from them so they couldn't catch up with him. He told them that according to their prior agreement, whoever took the wheel would be the one to fight the enemies. Raiden realized that he had sensed the presence of enemies in advance, so he wanted to take the lead in order to fight them himself. He told them that there were enemies that could not be avoided and that he had no choice but to fight. He asked them to continue advancing as it would be difficult for the enemies to find them in the forest. The rest tried to cross the barrier he had created, but to no avail. They were angry that he had made the decision on his own to become bait in order to buy them time to escape. Suddenly, communication between them was cut off and Shini ended up fighting a deadly battle alone against the enemy army. In the evening, the rest of the group prepared themselves by taking their weapons and heading toward the battlefield somehow. Meanwhile, Shini suffered devastating damage after being hit by a thunderous missile from a cannon. At that moment, he began to hear the voice of someone familiar to him vowing to destroy anyone who tried to harm his princess. Then Shine saw a huge vehicle heading towards him and realized that they were after him after his vehicle stopped working. When the rest arrived, they started shooting at the remaining vehicles and tried to tell him not to give up, but he was on the verge of death. As time passed, the members of 86 began to fall one by one under the rocket attacks until only Shini remained, wondering what name he would be called after becoming part of the enemy fleet, as had happened with Shori. On the other side, Vladilena arrived at Sector 86, and when she reached headquarters, Lev told her that they had left and taken the robot with them. When he asked her why she had come even though she was suspended from work, she told him that she wanted to visit the front lines now that she had free time. Then she found out that another group of Sector 86 members had been sent to their deaths after Shini and his companions left. Lev allowed her to look around the place as she pleased and told her that he had spent a long time watching the children come and go, but that this was the first time he had seen a commander from the state army set foot in the sector. Vladilena was surprised when she looked closely at him and found that he was of the Alba race. Like her, he told her that his wife was from 86 and that he had to dye his hair so that he could go with her and his daughter when they were transferred here. He ended up volunteering for military service to restore his family's civil rights, but soon they met their deaths on the battlefield. He added that when he was assigned here, he asked Shini if anyone had seen enemy vehicles searching for a despicable man who had failed to protect his family, as he intended to go to them and cause his own death. But Shini told him that no one had heard anyone calling his name, which made him feel relieved that his wife and daughter had died in peace, and he was certain that he would meet them after his death. He then said that he had told the members of 86 repeatedly that he was of the Alba race and that he would not mind if one of them took his life if it would make them feel better, but none of them took him out, which made him lose his chance to die, and he apologized to Vladilena for delaying her because of his chatter. After that, Vladilena went to take a look around the headquarters and became familiar with how they spent their time in this place and what their lives were like. Then she saw the cat that Shini and his friends were taking care of, so she followed it until she found it playing with one of the desk drawers. When she opened it, she found a pig-shaped ball inside and realized that he wanted to play. When she looked at what was inside the drawer, she was surprised to find that Shini had kept a log of the missions they had carried out, and inside she found a satirical cartoon of her with a message from Raiden saying that she would look foolish if she bothered to find for this log, as if he knew she would come to them. Then she was surprised when she found a commemorative photo of all 86 members, and found that those who remained had left left her farewell messages before their departure. Karina entrusted her with taking care of the cat after their departure and asked her to give it a cute name. Vladilena began to cry when she read Shini's message, asking her to leave some flowers for them when she reached the place they had reached one day. At that moment, she decided to move forward and fight to the death so that their sacrifices would not be in vain.
During the war between the Republic of San Magnolia and the Autonomous Legion, a handler uses the para-raid system to communicate with and command the 86th District in battle. During the fight, she notices that their radar has been jammed and realizes it will be difficult for the 86 to hold their ground. One of the Cyclops officers advises her to deploy their forces to the grid point and detach a smaller unit to lure the enemy in, allowing them to bring in the remaining artillery. Their motive is to ensure that their forces survive the war and secure victory in the ongoing conflict. In the Republic of San Magnolia, the news announces the latest military update, boasting of another victory against the enemy. The report declares that the pride of the nation, the Juggernaut, has intercepted and destroyed the Legion's assault, blocking their path and forcing them to retreat with 0 Republic casualties. The announcement gives the citizens hope and confidence, making them believe that the Republic will soon destroy the final remnants of the wicked empire. They celebrate with pride and shout praises for the Republic and give glory to their 5-colored flag. After the news, some soldiers in the Republic get drunk, celebrating their nation's victory over the Legion from the broadcast they just heard. When Lena enters the high-ranking officer's base, the drunken soldiers quickly change their conversation toward her, but Lena keeps walking straight ahead because she knows that they are useless drunken soldiers. Despite their empty boasting and lack of discipline, they still claim that within 2 years the Legion will be completely banished. As Lena keeps her focus and looks ahead, she coincidentally runs into Annette along the way. They greet each other, and Annette reminds her that she hasn't forgotten about improving the para-raid system. They part ways after Lena informs her that she will come and pay her a visit in the office. Lena then heads to the office of her uncle, the lieutenant colonel. Her uncle immediately reprimands her for the unauthorized use of artillery, unscheduled supply runs, and issuing orders to units not under her command. He criticizes her for overstepping boundaries, but Lena calmly replies that the reason he is having issues is simply because he refused to give her permission to use the necessary resources. The lieutenant colonel warns her to know her place because she is only a captain. Even Lena goes overboard by reminding Lieutenant Colonel that she has been the best handler so far and that his own achievements are based on his subordinates' performance. With those words, the lieutenant colonel's anger subsides and melts faster than his pride, but he manages to warn her to watch her mouth, and she excuses herself. After Lena leaves, the lieutenant colonel keeps his eyes on her and her Republic team. Lena assigns them some tasks, and they report that only 20% of the artillery is operational at the rear of the Southern Front's 8th Ward, just as she expected. As they walk, one of the team members notices that winter has arrived, bringing snow and weary expressions to the faces of Republic citizens. Lena's para-raid suddenly connects with Cyclops Handler 1, who reports spotting enemy formations during patrol and requests orders. Lena instructs her team to continue their investigation and runs off to respond. She enters Annette's office late, though Annette had asked her to come early. Despite that, Annette allows her in, and they begin their discussion. Lena reconnects with Cyclops, thanks her for the report, and requests an estimate of the Legion's strength. She encourages Cyclops and her team, reminding them that they can work together for the best even though the 86th District counts on her as their handler. Lena genuinely cares for them, fulfilling her duty with seriousness and compassion. Cyclops notices her sincerity and appreciates it, believing the 86th District will endure a little longer under her guidance. Cyclops also recalls that, a while back, the strongest man they knew was sent on a special recon mission, and now he has joined his forefathers in heaven, and the Cyclops was confused on what to do, whether to go for the recon mission or the Legion attack. But Lena too didn't know what to do, but she knows that her mission is to prepare for the large-scale Legion offensive likely to come anytime too soon. She urges Cyclops not to forget to send her the report after the patrol, and Cyclops hangs up. After the call, Lena determines to survive because Cyclops believes in her and to live up to the hopes of the 86th District soldiers who are no longer with them. One of the 86 soldiers, Shin, dreams of his brother carrying him and advising him not to let his memories weigh him down but to remember him sometimes and live happily and freely. As Shin runs after his brother, he disappears. Shin wakes up in an unknown hospital, calling his brother's name while lying down. Through the window, he sees people in hazmat suits. One of them, Ernst, the temporary president of the Federal Republic of Giad, enters the room. Ernst asks Shin to introduce himself and explains that he wore the suit for safety since Shin didn't respond earlier. He then removes the suit, introduces himself properly, and Shin does the same. Ernst warmly welcomes Shin to the Federal Republic of Giad and explains that the Empire of Giad, which created the Legion, was overthrown and reformed into a new democratic country known as the Federal Republic of Giad. Because of that, their country is now fighting against the remaining Legion forces. He also explains how they found Shin, who had been captured by the Legion. While Ernst is still talking, Shin becomes startled as he remembers his fellow 86. Immediately, the opaque window turns transparent, revealing his crew. Ernst tells Shin to explain everything that happened since they didn't know the full story and and welcomes them as the first foreign visitors discovered since the founding of the nation. He warmly greets the rest of the 86 crew and assures them that the Confederacy means no harm. As Ernst leaves with his team, they report to him that they have confirmed the 86 are not part of San Magnolia and carry no Legion bioweapons. The tests show that it was an old Legion model, Dinosauria, that had captured them. Ernst then wonders about the small devices in their ears, and someone explains that they are used for communication, though another team member suggests eliminating them for safety. Meanwhile, Shin and the 4 other surviving members of the 86th district are left alone. They tell him how worried they were during the 3 days he was unconscious, how Karina had cried, and that everyone was concerned. They scold him for making decisions on his own, and he apologizes. A month later, the 5 of them are still in the hospital when Ernst visits them again and announces that they are now citizens of the Confederacy. They are surprised because he had not visited them for a month and now suddenly wants to make them citizens. They question why he saved them, and Ernst explains that a society that cannot save its children has no purpose. He decides to become their legal guardian and gives them civilian clothes so they can explore the country. In the Confederacy, their army discovers a war machine called the Juggernaut, one that the 86 crew had used before. They begin testing its abilities and argue about how it should be deployed. Ernst joins them and warns the army to let the 86 rest from the battlefield, insisting they deserve to live peacefully since their homeland never gave them peace. Later, Ernst invites the 5 to his office to meet him again and explore the Confederacy. Karina looks through the window, and the others join her to see how the citizens of the Confederacy live happily and peacefully, celebrating one another. The 86 crew also sees people in other parts of the country protesting joyfully, and Ernst explains that everyone is happy because another nation has survived and desires to save the 86th district. Ernst brings them to his home and assures them it is their home from now on. When his adopted daughter opens the door, she slams it shut immediately. Ernst reopens it and she bursts into tears. The 86th district members finally enter, and Federica welcomes them as poor souls banished from their country, saying that Great Jihad welcomes them with pity and compassion. Shin asks Ernst if she is his daughter and says he should train her better, but Federica even rejects him as her father. Ernst introduces her properly, saying circumstances made him take care of her. They all sit down and Federica eats like a glutton, embarrassing Ernst. He announces that she is officially his daughter and that the 86 will live with her as siblings because Ernst has adopted them too. She asks them to call him Dad. Federica notices something strange on Shin's neck, but Ernst silences her, saying everyone has their own scars. She then boldly declares that she is their little sister who will heal their wounds and restore everything they have lost, whether family or happiness. She expects them to be kind to her. Shin teasingly pulls her hair, making her cry to the cook, Teresa, who comforts her and introduces herself to the 86, welcoming them home. Later, Teresa clears their plates while Federica sits alone, feeling bored because the others went to sleep early. That night, Shin lies down helplessly in his room when Ernst knocks on his door to give him his war machine. On his way back, Ernst thanks Teresa for taking care of them and comments that it must be hard for her since her cooking workload has increased. In the Confederacy, their citizens are preparing the Festival of the Holy Birth, which will start soon, and everyone is excited for the day. Federica also looks forward to it and starts looking for Shin. In the city, the 5 members of the 86 explore separately. Raiden works with some people who praise him for his strength in carrying materials. Karina checks some fashion stores and gets attracted like an electromagnet. Theo also explores her drawing ability, and people around her appreciate it. Anju practices her cooking skills. Shin and Federica go to the library. Shin is checking some books when a cold, quiet girl drags a book from him and runs away. He gives it to her, but she bolts without saying thanks. Moments later, her brother returns with her, scolding her for being rude and teaching her how to show gratitude. Embarrassed, she runs away again. Shin realizes how hard it must be for her brother. Eugene explains they often visit the library and haven't attended school because of their background. He introduces himself as Eugene and Shin does the same. Meanwhile, Federica and Nina meet and relate to each other. Federica notices the book Nina has is from Shin and, since Nina has not finished reading it, decides to give it back later. Federica then asks Shin to join her in shopping. She convinces him to buy her one, and as they walk through the streets, she smiles and feels the winter breeze. Everyone outside enjoys the cheerful atmosphere as the festival draws near. Ernst, enjoying his stay in the office, decides to stay all day and night before heading home in the morning. His co-workers tell him that exchanging gifts is part of their festival tradition, and he wonders what gifts to get for the people at home. At home, the 86 reflect on how they've spent a month in the Confederacy, living and enjoying their lives in peace and meeting new people. That night, Shin falls asleep in the library and dreams of the battlefield, the dead calling for his help. When he wants to shoot them, he notices he is not with a gun, and he wakes as Eugene calls his name, warning that sleeping there could get him in trouble. Eugene mentions the upcoming military Holy Birth Eve parade, where the Western Front Armored Division will join. He says he plans to enlist and tries to convince Shen to do the same. Even though the city is peaceful, battles still rage at the border, and he wants to protect his little sister Nina. He walks away, hoping the war will end soon, and promising to see Shin at the parade. While Eugene walks Nina home, Shin decides to head back after a long day. Karina happily explores their neighborhood, while until Anju asks Theo for help carrying something. Anju calls Shin on the phone to help them, and they start talking about the battlefield and juggernauts. Shin wants his juggernaut and his pistol, but they know those are still with Ernst. They talk about Shin's burden as the Undertaker and how his goal of killing his brother kept him alive. They both admit they want to move on with their lives and are thankful the Federacy saved them. As they talk, the news shows Vanagander in action. They find the machines fascinating and wish to try them someday. The picture of the machine also surprises Raiden and Karena, who spot it from different places. At home, Federica cries because she's hungry as if she has worked all day. Raiden comes in and asks for Teresa, but she's out shopping, so he cooks for Federica instead. She enjoys the food and asks about his work. He replies that he came home early and jokes that she's lucky he was at home. If it were Shin, he wouldn't care about her hunger since he only thinks about fighting. Federica teases that Shin is obsessed with killing his brother. Raiden is surprised she knows about that. Shin quietly enters the house with Teresa, Anju, and Rika. Teresa explains the way the car broke down while shopping and that she had to call them to help with the load. Soon after Karena enters, Teresa thanks Anju, Rika, and Shin for helping. However, Karena looks sad and tells them she has seen enough to know they should return to where they belong, the battlefield. The next morning, after everyone concludes the day at home, the 86 inform Ernst that they want to go back to the battlefield. When he hears it, he wonders why they would want to go back. They thank him for giving them rest and shelter, but Ernst still can't understand. They explain they would rather die fighting than live peacefully only to die inside. Ernst tries to convince them to stay, saying they earn the peace. Federica makes Ernst understand that keeping them against their will would make him no different from the Republic. Ernst finally agrees to let them go, but on one condition: they must enlist as officers. Once the war ends, they'll have new opportunities. He reminds them the war will someday be over and urges them to plan for their future. Federica then speaks mysteriously. When Shin calls her princess, she denies it and reveals who she is: the last Empress Princess of the great empire of Giad, which conquered the continent 10 years ago. She admits her empire caused much loss, including their families. The group is shocked. How could such a young girl have done that? She apologizes sincerely and makes a request. If they are returning to the battlefield, she wants to go with them to destroy her former knight's ghosts taken by the Legion. Federica explains that the Legion once attacked Shin before they reached this country. When Shin asks how she knows, she says her bloodline grants her visions of the past and present. Federica reveals that Shin's brother was once wounded. She could see, but not save him. If she could, she would have saved Kiria. She pleads with them to save the knight now, telling Shin to save him. In the Federacy, academy practice begins, and Eugene and Shin are on the same region leaf, while Marcel and other officers are on the Juggernaut. They undergo training, and they are assigned to different new units under the Federacy. They use Pararade to communicate, and Eugene and Shin pilot the Vanagander, a new Juggernaut design vehicle, but suddenly they almost crash. They quickly maneuver, flip, and land safely, and everyone is happy they are saved. The high-ranking officer is displeased and orders them to get out of the vehicle. He reprimands them and questions Marcel, who explains that he wanted to flank the enemy, but his reason is not good enough, so the officer grades him with nothing and advises him to go back and relearn. The high-ranking officer scolds Shin for how he jumped with Vanaganders, so Shin explains that it is the only way to avoid collision since it is better to let the leg of the machine be removed than to lose their lives together. With his point, the man gives him credit for avoiding the crash but still disqualifies him for reckless piloting. After the correction, Eugene and Shin are together while Marcel and one of the army crew drag Eugene away from him. Lieutenant Gretza appears and asks Shin and the other 86 to follow her, saying she has received permission from the authorities. Meanwhile, Marcel warns Eugene not to go near Shin because the Feldrevs 86 are being used for R&D tests that don't consider pilot safety. Following him can lead to his own death. Many people have died in testing, and they even call Shin a Reaper. Gretha takes the 86 for a trip, and they are surprised, not knowing where they are going until they stop. At a memorial site, she shows them Legion-controlled territory that the Federacy has managed for over 6 months. She shows them a wide space where the names of their fallen comrades from the Republic, the Feldrevs, and the 86 soldiers from the Old Republic Spearhead Squadron are engraved in memory of their bravery. Grethi anticipates their reaction, but Shin thanks her for her concern. She then makes them official members of the Federal Republic of Giad's military and prepares them for battle under her command in the Nordlicht Squadron. She formally introduces herself, and Federica arrives with Fido as a surprise. The 86 are shocked to see Fido and recognize it as Republic tech. Federica explains that they analyzed the wreckage and found its core intact, and Gretha rebuilt it. Gretha adds that this Fido is stronger and now responds to Shin's name. Shin moves closer and realizes the machine remembers him. He recalls how it carried them to the Federacy. Fido flips around playfully, making everyone laugh as Shin smiles again. On their way back, Greta wonders why Federica came, explaining that she is their mascot because the young girl joined a unit for eating and sleeping only, not for battle. That is the old Giardian tradition. Greta declares that Federica will join the unit as their goddess of victory. Federica surprises Shin by returning his lost pistol from the last 86 battle with the Legion, explaining that Ernst gave it to her. Shin accepts it and the whole crew is happy. After officially joining the Federacy military, they are deployed into battle with their new machine, the Reagan Leafs. Meanwhile, other military forces engage in a fierce fight with the Legion. Enemy units number in the thousands, and the soldiers are tense but must hold their ground or be captured and destroyed. Suddenly, Eugene faces a Legion unit, but then Region Leaf, the 86 squad, appears and opens fire, destroying it. The battle is intense. Explosions and blades burn through the air, and Eugene is injured. As the Legion continues their relentless assault, Greta warns Shin not to misuse the high-frequency blade because there is no replacement, and as he walks away, he lets Greta know the Legion will return in greater numbers again. Shin rides in the same vehicle with Federica, who praises him for his work, but he warns her not to follow them to the battlefield. She insists instead, and Bernhold, who is also in the car, advises her to let Shin rest. Marcel, Eugene, and the others imagine how the Nordlich's group fought in yesterday's war. Eugene decides to eat with Shin. Eugene and Shin welcome each other back and find that he too is stationed in the place he is, while Federica forces herself to eat because she didn't like the food and didn't want to waste the food because of the time the staff has put in it, and Shin helps her. Eugene brings the war back to Shin, noticing that he knows that it was Shin who saved them during the fight. As they talk, Federica quickly remembers Eugene's face and that she heard that he and Shin attended the same academy. She and Eugene feel bad for Shin because he is quiet and hides his emotions. When Eugene and Shin continue their discussions, Federica captures the moment with her camera with Eugene and Shin together to mark the day and leaves them and allows them to have their friendly discussion. Eugene wonders why Federica is Shin's mascot. Shin asks about Eugene's sister, Nina, and Eugene explains that she lives with their aunt. They have no parents, and he even hopes she can go to a good school. He plans to take her shopping one day so Nina can enjoy herself. Hearing this, Shin feels bad for him, knowing the war isn't going well. Many people have died, even though many Legion units were also destroyed, but they cannot compare the number of losses because soldiers' deaths are seen as normal. As they talk, an alarm suddenly sounds, and all the soldiers in the room become alert. Federica worries if Shin is fine and tries to communicate with him, but she still feels bad news coming. Later, Shin finds Eugene's wrecked unit. Eugene is alive but fatally wounded, suffering in pain and unable to move. Knowing he'll be captured by the Legion if left alive, Shin Mercy kills him with his pistol to spare him that fate. At the moment, Shin feels bad that that's the harsh reality of war and how the same tragedy from the Republic repeats in the Federacy. Marcel witnesses Shin shoot Eugene and blames him, saying he should have saved him instead. Federica calls Shin, sensing another war ahead, and tells him to prepare, and he does. In the Federal Republic of Giad, inside the operation base, Raiden sees Shin preparing some books, and he asks if he is reading them, and continues that they are in the same base and getting ready to meet up the next day for war. Raiden wonders why they are deploying them anyhow, and during the next war, they are using prototype units, while the Legion are already preparing for attack. The high-ranking military officers are holding a meeting preparing for the next war. The integrated analysis team investigates and reports that the Legion are approaching in large numbers. Lieutenant Greta prepares to reorganize their squadron and bring back her own team. Other teams are amazed on hearing that because the Regenlates are still in testing, and they wonder if they can function properly. She tries to convince them that the Nordlich squad killed most of the Legion, but the leaders angrily decline and pity the 86 crew being sent back into battle, claiming Lieutenant Greta is doing it to raise her status. Greta, however, shows the team leaders how powerful the 86 crew are, insisting that to protect the Federacy and its people, they must be deployed again. Shin walks with one of the leaders, who explains that 2 people were lost in battle and that they need more personnel. He tries to convince Shin to join a regular unit. As they walk, Federica passes by, undressed and sleep-talking along the base. While Anju and Rika are also walking, moving closer to Shin, he drags Federica and throws her to Anju like a piece of paper. The leader asks Shin to sign the paper, saying it is an order from above. Meanwhile, the other crew members are eating, and the 86 squad is also eating together. Raiden and the others scold Federica for sleep-talking and undressing in the base, leaving her embarrassed. Federica notices the 5 members of the 86 squad smiling and eating together after a long time. After their meal, Federica gets them ready to return to their base. Other crews also prepare, and Lieutenant Grayeth compliments the squads for their support mission. She informs them that the Radiant Leafs are suited for battle, but Shin comments that the Juggernauts are like aluminum coffins just for mobility, but not for safety, and many processors have died because of that. She is shocked to hear this because she now realizes the 86 crew managed to maneuver it because of their experience. Lieutenant Greta wonders why they still choose to operate the Regan Leafs despite knowing their disadvantages and advantages. They reply that they didn't have a choice since she was the one who recommended it for them. Greta explains that she was once a Venegander pilot during the Legion War 10 years ago and shares her experience, recalling how many of her friends died because of the slow Venegander. commanders. She says she wanted the Feldreb to be faster and save more lives, which is why she decided to create the Regen Leafs. She appreciates Shin's opinion and expects more results from them. Greta then shares news about the survival of the United Kingdom of Roa Gracia and the Alliance of Wald, saying their wireless signals were intercepted and they have managed to sustain themselves. The 86 whisper among themselves, wondering which country that is. However, regarding other surrounding nations and San Magnolia to the west, their signals were never intercepted. Lieutenant Greta explains that they are predicting a large-scale Legion war is imminent. Therefore, their forces want to strengthen their numbers, restructure the chain of command, and show the Region Life and Nordlicht squadrons true worth. She assures them that the Federacy is different from the San Magnolia Republic and that all analyses have been done. She promises that the Federacy will not abandon those who fight alongside them. Later, Federica knocks on Shin's door. He silently walks to her, and she wonders why he keeps that habit of walking so quietly. She looks around his room and finds it empty, no photos or decorations, and as boring as an animal's cage, but Shin says if there were more things, it would be hard to clean. To him, the room is just a place to sleep, but Federica makes him know that it is home and not good to be empty. Federica compares Shin's room to Eugene's room, which is filled with pictures of his sister Nina. Shin cluelessly regrets why Federica will be seeing him. If not, she would not have seen him die, but she objects, saying even death shouldn't tear people apart. She says it's good to meet people even though they will still tear apart, and shows him the photo of Shin and Eugene she took while they were eating. Shin asks why she came, and she replies that she came to apologize for calling him Curie while she was sleep-talking. She explains that Curie and he share the same clan origin, the Nuzen, though they are not direct descendants. They look alike because the last time she saw him, he was in Shin's stature, and she continues that Curie does take care of her to the very best no matter what she asks. Federica says that even if Shin and Curie meet, they might not get along. Shin asks why Curie joined the Legion. Federica explains that the Empire of Giad once used the Legion to attack neighboring nations, which caused people to rebel. Instead of protecting humans, the Legion turned on them. Some people ran to the fortress, and since the Legion were not meant to fight alongside humans, others defended it themselves. Correa had no choice but to join in order to protect her from the rebels, and ended up fighting many people until he went insane. Eventually, the fortress fell, and the Federacy captured them. Ernst led the men who saved them, but Correa witnessed everything. Soon after, the Legion wandered the battlefield collecting materials to recycle, and turned Kyria into a monster. The whole empire collapsed, and many people died, leaving only the Legion alive. Federica recalls Shin's earlier words that the Legion are coming again and that Kyria will be among them. She advises Shin that if the fight becomes too dangerous, he should run for his life. She says people can die easily and that it's not worth saving Kyria if others must die too. Those who are alive still have futures they must protect. Shin feels emotional hearing her words because no one has ever told him something like that, and he has never thought about it that way. Federica teasingly tells him that he is boring and his heart is dreary. Later, Raiden notices Shin carrying Federica and remarks how attached she has become to him like an older brother. Raiden calls Karena to come and carry her. Shin and Raiden are left alone talking about the Juggernaut. Raiden advises him to keep a secret because if people find out, they will call him a Reaper again. He realizes that the Federacy are not the saviors they seem. They don't treat people equally. He says it's not only the Legion that takes people's lives, the Federacy also neglects others. He advises Shin not to act recklessly. Raiden feels the warning is enough for Shin, and it's up to others to believe it or not. He asks if something is bothering Shin, but Shin replies that he needs to think about the future too because Federica has asked him to do that. In the night, the Legion prepares for a full-scale combat operation to annihilate all remaining human nations. Their targets include the Federal Republic of Giad on the eastern front, the United Kingdom of Rola Gracia on the northern front, and 2 other countries, including the Republic of San Magnolia on the western front. At the Federacy, Shin senses danger approaching. He stands ready for battle and suddenly perceives through his connection that the Legion are coming in overwhelming numbers. He wakes Raiden and warns him that this might be the worst-case scenario. Some of the Legion forces that were expected to attack other nations are actually redirecting their assault toward the Federacy in full strength. Shin tells Raiden not to synchronize with him through the para-raid unless it's an emergency. He feels uneasy about the coming battle, knowing how terrible it will be. Together, they start waking the other members of their unit. When Shin warns the others, some soldiers doubt him and show bias toward him, not believing his prediction. But soon, the entire Federacy military begins preparing for combat. When the Legion finally appears, the Federacy's defense units open fire. The soldiers see the enemy in massive numbers that stretch across the horizon. They unleash their artillery cannons and anti-Legion weapons, but the Legion continue advancing. Their own weapons strike back with brutal precision, killing many Federacy soldiers at once. Fear grips the commanders as reports pour in. Lieutenant Greta communicates through the network, announcing that the Legion has filled the entire western front with a large-scale offensive. She warns that the western line is about to collapse and that similar attacks are happening across other countries simultaneously. Shin reports back to Greta that the Nordlicht squadron is ready for deployment. She is surprised and asks how they managed to prepare so fast. Shin answers calmly that they deployed on their their own and have geared his crew up for the battle even without orders, and that he is willing to accept any punishment later. Moments later, the Legion breaks through and begins entering the Federacy camps with full force. The regular Federacy troops fight desperately, but they're completely overwhelmed. Just when it seems hopeless, the Nordlicht squadron, led by Shin, arrives in their Regenleaf mechs and launches a counterattack. Other soldiers are stunned to see the Nordlicht unit charging into battle fearlessly. Their arrival boosts morale, and they start firing alongside them. The battlefield becomes chaotic, with smoke, explosions, and burning metal everywhere. Despite heavy losses among the Federacy forces, the Nordlicht squadron continues to wipe out large numbers of Legion, pushing them back with their speed and precision. From the command center, Lieutenant Greta and the other officers watch in awe as the battlefield lights up. The Legion swarm like ants whose nest has been kicked, flooding toward the Nordlicht unit with endless rage, but Shin and his team continue fighting without hesitation. The Nordlicht squadron continues their fierce assault on the Legion. They destroy countless enemy units and seem to have crushed them completely. As they celebrate their victory, they assume the remaining enemy forces will be handled by other Federacy units. But Shin interrupts the celebration, warning them that the Legion they just defeated was only the vanguard, the front line. The main Legion force is still coming, and if they retreat now, their sector will collapse. Determined to hold the line, Shin leads the squadron to intercept the main wave. The Regenleaf mechs rush forward to catch up with the enormous Legion army, tens of thousands strong. They open fire, destroying many, but Shin realizes that despite all they've eliminated, the battle has only just begun. At the base, Federica senses danger. She feels that if she could find Kiri's Legion unit, her former knight, and now a Legion commander, he might be able to help them. Suddenly, her seer ability activates. Her eyes glow, and she sees Kiri's unit moving on the battlefield. Meanwhile, the Nordlicht squadron fights deep inside enemy territory. Federica desperately tries to contact Shin through the para-raid, shouting warnings about Kiri, but Shin's connection suddenly cuts off. Something has happened, and Federica's heart fills with fear. The Nordlicht members are all badly injured and exhausted. Despite the heavy damage, they manage to retreat and return to base after completing their mission. When they finally land, Federica runs to Shin, crying in relief. She embraces him tightly, sobbing because she thought he had died. Shin, along with the rest of the 86 squad, survives, but all of them are wounded and shaken. Far away, the Legion continue their massive advance into other countries. On the northern front, the First Ward's 1st Defensive Squadron, Sledgehammer, begins its operation to hold back the Legion invasion. At the Republic of San Magnolia, life seems peaceful as people relax and enjoy their day, completely unaware of the danger approaching. Suddenly, alarms blare in the Republic Army base, echoing across the capital. Lena and the remaining soldiers in the military headquarters hear the sirens, a terrifying signal that the Legion has reached the Republic once again. While panic spreads, many civilians, too used to comfort and safety, believe it's just another movie drill or false alarm. But Lena immediately knows the truth, that the Legion is attacking for real. Lena rushes to the command center, where Annette connects with her through the network and reports the situation. She explains that the attack is coming from the northern front and that the Legion is using a massive railgun. The northern front has already fallen, and the eastern and western fronts are also under heavy assault. The Republic is collapsing from all sides. Lena's uncle, General Karlstahl, grabs her arm and demands to know what plan she has. Lena answers firmly that all remaining squadrons inside the Grand Mur must re-establish a defensive line before the Legion reaches the first sector. She plans to intercept the Legion there to buy time and protect the civilians. But Karlstahl disagrees. He tells her bitterly that it's better for the Republic to be destroyed by the Legion than to allow the 86 soldiers who were once abandoned and mistreated by the Republic to enter the city. He says no matter how much they beg, the 86 would never forgive them, and if they did come back, they would only humiliate the Republic for what it did to them. Lena refuses to accept that. She reminds her uncle that the Republic still holds key facilities, like factories and power plants, that are vital to survival. She insists that the Federacy and the 86 will still help, not because of mercy, but because they have a duty to fight the Legion together as human beings. Karlstahl mocks her idealism, calling it a childish dream that can never be fulfilled. But Lena ignores his words. Determined and unshaken, she chooses to take command and lead the defense herself. Later, all lieutenant-ranked officers and soldiers are gathered around the central war table. General Karlstahl, seeing no other choice, decides to authorize military action. Lena activates her para-raid system, the same mental communication network she once used with the 86. She synchronizes all available processors across the 85 sectors, and her voice echoes through the network, telling them that the Republic is under large-scale attack. All units, they should prepare for combat. They determine to fight to the end. Her words inspire the remaining troops, even though the situation seems hopeless. At the end, Lena stands tall, her resolve stronger than ever, preparing to defend the Republic against the overwhelming Legion invasion, no matter the cost. The Legion continue their massive coordinated global assault across multiple nations. In the Republic of San Magnolia, the military tries to fight back, but the Legion comes in full force, overwhelming their defenses. Meanwhile, in the Federal Republic of Giad, the Confederacy forces barely manage to push the Legion back after an intense battle. When the fight is finally over, Federica rushes to meet Shin, relieved that he survived. However, Shin seems distant and emotionless, haunted by the war. Federica, who once lost her knight Kyria to the Legion, cries and begs Shin not to end up like him. She embraces him tightly, tears filling her eyes, especially because their para-raid connection had been cut off during the fight, making her fear she had lost him. Around them, the battlefield is filled with wounded soldiers crying out for help, and the sight is unbearable. Shin gently covers Federica's eyes, preventing her from seeing the bruised, dying, and disfigured bodies scattered across the field. He then hands her over to Anju for safety while preparing himself for what comes next. Later, the Confederacy's high-ranking officers meet to discuss the aftermath of the assault. They report that the Legion has introduced new modifications and weapons during the attack. Many of their forward operating bases, FOBs, have been completely annihilated. Over 2,000 personnel were lost in a single day. They discover that the Legion has deployed a new ultra-long-range artillery unit called the Morpho, which uses railgun technology with devastating precision and range. The officers explain how their missiles and conventional artillery have become almost useless against it. Despite their efforts, the Confederacy has suffered severe casualties and can no longer afford to move troops from other fronts. Even if they tried, the soldiers likely wouldn't survive the journey. Later that day, one of the Confederacy officers calls the Nordlicht Squadron, the 86th team, outside and compliments them for their bravery and strength at such a young age, amazed at how they face death without fear. Back at the base, the 86th crew, Shin, Raiden, Anju, Theo, Karina, and Federica, share a quiet meal together. Federica notices that Shin is lost in thought and distant. She asks him what's wrong and mentions that during the battle, she had tried to synchronize with him but couldn't reach him. She then suggests everyone should rest, knowing how exhausted they all are. Federica wishes the 86 could finally receive the rest and treatment they deserve after everything they've endured, but Karina, frustrated, rejects the idea, bitterly believing they'll never be treated fairly no matter where they go. Still, the group reflects that at least they didn't lose their base this time, and that the Morpho will need time to repair, giving them a short period of peace before the next assault. Elsewhere, other Confederacy soldiers celebrate their temporary calm, praising the Confederacy's military discipline and training. Yet the 86 members remain uneasy, sensing that this peace won't last. Deep down, they all suspect that once the Morpho is repaired, they will be the first ones sent back into the battlefield against it. In the afternoon, one of the injured units, Marcel, met with Nina, Eugene's sister, and wrote a letter for Shin. He made sure he would deliver the message safely. Afterward, Shin read the message from Nina, asking him why he killed her brother Eugene. Shin had received a lot of bad messages and bad reviews about how he used to survive alone while others in the war were gone. That was what happened to him. Remembering what people had said in the war, he slacks off. During that time, someone knocked on his door and informed him that Lieutenant Greta wanted to speak with him. Major General and Lieutenant Greta had found out that Shin could sense where the Legion was. They asked him the location of the Legion to be sure of their findings, and he answered them. They finalized that he was the man for the operation they wanted to run, where 3 nations would launch simultaneous assaults. They knew that the Legion reinforcements on each front could not withdraw, so they needed a strike force to enter Legion territory and destroy the Morpho. The man concluded that 15 units of the Nordlicht Squadron would be assigned for the Special Strike Force, and Shin would be at the forefront of the largest joint operation in the history of mankind. Fear gripped Lieutenant Greta when the Major declared the Special Strike Force that the Nordlicht Squadron would embark on. She wondered why he would send them to death just because they were 86 or because they had no family. Shin reminisces on the spot about how the other 86 squad members felt bad for themselves because they were not welcome anywhere. Most of them had died because of the perilous fights they had been put through, and their deaths were never peaceful or kind. They had come to accept who they were. They always ended up in death. He also remembered how Lena and the Republic always tried to protect him, but still, he ended up leaving her behind. The Major had trust in him that he could do it since he had done it once. Since the Confederacy had saved him once from the battlefield, he felt he must do something in return for them too. Lieutenant Greta felt heavy in her heart, but Shin told her that it was the best option for fighting the Legion so the Confederacy could maintain the front lines. However, Lieutenant Greta asked him to use his power in the mission ahead in order to destroy the Morpho. She also asked the other 86 crew members to stay back. Greta advised him that once the battle was over, he should leave the military because even his homeland had failed to protect him. Shin turned down Lieutenant Greta's words, telling her that she should not pity him. No matter what she said, that didn't mean she would not call the 86 crew for battle. With the research of the Special Strike Force the Confederacy was sending Shin into, they knew that his survival chances were close to zero, and that the mission was made for 86 monsters to whom death was almost attractive. So, the Confederacy was not giving the 86 any sense of pity or safety at all. They only sent them to die. Lieutenant Greta called the Nordlicht Squadron and informed them about the Special Strike Force they were about to embark on, but nobody answered her. She felt bad for them too and quietly walked out through the door. One of the generals, who was also in the meeting, appreciated Shin for sticking with them but still walked out after pitying them because of the dead mission they are about to face, leaving the 86 crew alone, quiet and somber. Raiden also felt that the plan plan they had for them was too cruel for him to even say a word of pity, but from what Graith had said, they could decline the death mission set before them. However, Karina felt that if they rejected the mission, they would be no different from the White Pigs. Anju felt the same way, but Theodo knew they had given them this dangerous mission because they were 86. They decided to go because they were 86. They still felt lonely leaving Shin behind, but later called him to eat dinner, wishing to eat hot food because of the hot mission ahead of them. In the Federacy, the Western Front's commander-in-chief announces that they have selected 5 of the 86 and the rest of the Nordlicht squadron for the mission to destroy the Legion Morpho, delivering the order to Ernst. But Ernst knows this is impossible. 5 of the 86 cannot break through Legion-controlled territory. He also remembers what other leaders once said when they rescued those 5, that they should have been eliminated. He suspects that this is the plan for the remaining 86. Ernst therefore totally declines the idea of sending the rest of the 86 crew into Legion territory. Across the Federacy, other officers and high-ranking officials openly call the 86 monsters, saying there is no place for them in their homeland. But Ernst insists on protecting the remaining 86 crew. At night, Lieutenant Graitha slips into the Major General's darkened room, intending to plead their case on behalf of the 86. She wonders why the Major General would split Nordlicht into smaller units and suspects he's doing it for someone named Richard. The Major General is cold. He says he feels nothing for them because they are monsters on the battlefield and orders her not to grow attached or kind to them. Graitha refuses to be indifferent. She tells him the 86 are still children and teenagers who need protection and time to adapt to their new environment. They can choose to live on the battlefield if they wish, but that choice should be theirs, not something forced on them. She even bets the Major General that the 86 crew can one day understand human feelings and live like ordinary people. Because she won a bet before, she is not afraid to wager again on their behalf. She argues that the slow Regan lifts are not suitable for the big mission, and yet the command wants to send the 86 crew instead. Back at the base, soldiers and the 86 crew gather as a sealed, massive gate is opened, a gate most had never seen opened. People murmur, wondering why it has been opened now. Beyond it lies an old Imperial Air Force hangar. They realize the base is perilously close to the border, where the Legion could dash in at any moment. Lieutenant Graitha explains they are going underground because it is the safest route against bombing. She reveals the Natsahara, prototype ground effect vehicles that skim above the ground and will carry them to the Morpho far faster than helicopters. Soldiers are surprised to see it. Even Karina stares, unsure how such a small craft can fly. When Graitha praises the Natsahara's capabilities, Federica recoils at the name. It sounds awful. She remembers an old vampire legend from the southeast of the Federacy, the Natsahara rising from graves, dragging shadows, and ringing church bells. Theoto worries the craft will crash into buildings since it flies only a few meters above the ground. Graitha reassures them that the Legion do not build cities or conventional structures and that the Natsahara will avoid Legion forces. She also says she trusts Shin to make it work. Shin asks if his power will function with the vehicle, and Graitha admits Natsahara cannot turn once ambushed, but she tells them not to worry because the alliance of 3 countries will handle most of the enemy forces. Federica angrily calls Graitha's assurances camouflage. Even if they reach the Morpho, what is the probability of them winning? And if they do, they will become targets with no way back. Her words fall heavy, and the place is quiet. Everyone knows she is right. But Shin insists it is more important to get the Morpho than to worry about returning. The soldiers still doubt Graitha's claims about the Natsahara. Can it even fly? Asks Raiden. The 86 crew floods her with questions, curious about who will pilot it. Graitha volunteers herself, and everyone mocks the idea as impossible, thinking she's teasing. At the end of the meeting, Federica causes a scene, refusing to follow what she calls a death mission. Shin is curious about her reason. Federica explains that although she is part of the Nordlicht squadron, that does not mean others must follow blindly into death. She reminds Shin of when she was taken hostage as a mascot and says there must be exceptions for the president's daughter. Shin tells her he still hears Kyria's voice and pleads that she needn't be there. Federica tells him plainly if he wants to save Kyria, he must not join a reckless operation. Even though Kyria is one of her fans, she will not take part in a suicidal mission. Federica decides to act for their safety. The two spar with words, each trying to drive the other away from reckless choices. Federica presses further that Shin slew his brother like a ghost and now plans to join a death operation to slay Kyria, sounding as if he is chasing his own ghosts. She argues the upcoming mission is a death trap, and that pride without purpose will get him nowhere. He could end up like Kyria. She forces him to confront the past, to see how he has regretted his brother's actions and how he might be repeating them, causing others to suffer. Shin turns and finds Federica bawling. She finally tells him not to go. The mission will lead to his death, and she cannot bear to lose anyone close to her. She walks to him and takes his hand. On the day set for the death mission, 5 of the 86 crew prepare to embark, but they are all amazed and feel hurt that Federica has decided not to go with them. They all think she has locked herself in her room. Lieutenant Gray calls their attention and orders them to enter the Natsahara, but Shin stays where he is and calls Fido to follow him as well. The others who board decide to sleep through the journey. Lieutenant Graitha has no choice but to pilot the craft because the old Air Force pilots died long ago, which astonishes the 86 crew. Graitha also decides decides to follow the 86 crew into battle to the end, unwilling to leave children like them to make such a choice alone. Other soldiers wave as they embark and shout encouragement, telling them they do not want them to die and urging them to come back alive. The highest-ranking officers in the Confederacy Army also call out to the team, cheering them on and reminding them that, as the core of this highest priority mission, they must destroy the Morpho and return. They promise support, unless the team determines the Confederacy itself must be destroyed to stop the threat. Those higher-ranking officers communicate among themselves that Western Front forces have begun advancing into Legion-held territory and that the outcome will be decided by multiple countries. People across the Confederacy hope fervently for the crew's safe return. The strike force begins their assault and enters Legion territory. They clear Phase 1 and move into Phase 2, laughing and shouting into the air as they press forward. Many of the 86 crew are terrified of the Nachahera's motion, and during Phase 2, they suddenly lose all transmission. In Legion territory, the Legion becomes aware that a small enemy force has invaded their area. Massive swarms of bees Legion units begin to gather, blocking every possible escape route for the intruders. The Nachahera, unable to turn back due to their automated systems and mission orders, are forced to press forward through the Legion's defenses. Shin prepares and informs the others aboard the Nachahera to begin their impact on the Legion. The Nachahera is hit repeatedly, and the Confederacy officers back at the command center watch helplessly as they lose transmission with the team inside. Later, they receive a message from Shin that they have been invaded by Legion. Lieutenant Gratha pilots the Nachahera at full speed, skillfully maneuvering to evade the enemy, but the Legion appear in overwhelming numbers, surrounding the Nachahera like a giant metallic centipede. The aircraft's crew and support officers watch in panic as thousands of Legion units swarm closer, firing relentlessly. When the Nachahera moves closer to the Morpho, Shin sits quietly, listening to faint ghostly voices through the para-raid echoes of dead soldiers and Legion whispers calling his name. The Legion ghosts are determined to eliminate him. The Morpho grows larger and more powerful, terrifying the Nachahera crew, leaving them frozen and unsure of what to do. Shin continues to hear the voice within the Morpho, Kiri's voice vowing to annihilate him. Federica quickly calls out to Shin to wake up because he has just listened to the words of Kiri, the Morpho, and was carried away by the voice. But Kiri's voice becomes stronger, filled with determination to eliminate the Nachahera crew. When Shin hears that, he notifies the entire team to pull back, promising to explain his actions later. Immediately after, an explosion erupts at their location, but they survive thanks to Shin's power. When the Morpho attacks the Nachahera with a massive blast of fire, the Confederacy Command Center loses their signal. The high-ranking officers wonder how the Morpho could repair itself so quickly, but they realize that it transferred its consciousness into a backup unit. In the blast, drones from the United Kingdom of Rua Gracia, who were supporting the mission, were destroyed in the crossfire. The officers anxiously discuss possible rescue operations and propose launching a missile strike, but the idea becomes impossible because no one is willing to volunteer to fire the missiles. They cannot even track the Legion's location, as their radar has failed and the recon drones are lost. The officers fall into despair, finding no solution to the ongoing problem. Many begin to believe that the Nordlicht squadron has failed, and that the only hope left is to protect the Western Front from artillery attack. But President Ernst Zimmermann, the leader of the Confederacy, refuses to send another unit to die. He insists they cannot risk more lives and declares that if anyone suggests abandoning the squadron, he would rather destroy the entire Confederacy than give up on the people they sent into Legion territory. Moments later, new signals appear on their systems that the Nordlicht squadron has survived the attack. Against all odds, Shin and his team have managed to hold their position and are still advancing toward Morpho. They even change formation and begin firing on the Morpho. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Shin and the others realize they have successfully damaged part of Morpho's structure. They change their route to prepare for a direct strike on the main body. However, the Legion regroup quickly and focus their entire assault on Shin, recognizing him as the greatest threat among those who survived. As the 86 crew continue to fight, they call out to Shin through the radar, urging him to fire up, but Shin remains silent, carried away by Kiri's voice that seeks to annihilate him. Shin targets Morpho's core, ready to finish the fight no matter the cost. However, the Morpho decides to withdraw from the battle, pulling back its units immediately. The Nachahera crew starts calling Shin's name to fire, but he doesn't hear them. He focuses only on Kiri's voice, determined to eliminate him. Shin locks onto the Morpho and fires, his attack affecting both Kiria and the Morpho itself. The Morpho finally begins to retreat after several warnings from its radar system. Inside the Morpho, Kiri hesitates to withdraw and wants to continue fighting. The others on Shin's team keep shouting his name, warning that the Legion are about to surround them and that they are in danger, but Shin remains focused on Kiri's voice and loses awareness of his surroundings. When the Nachahera crew attempts to pursue the Morpho, the rest of the Nordlicht squadron disagrees, insisting they need to regroup and wait for a relief force. But Shin makes them understand that the mission's focus is to destroy and challenge the Morpho. Even when the Nordlicht squadron argues that the country they are fighting for is not even theirs, the 86 refuse to back down. Other groups turn back, unwilling to be destroyed by the Legion's next attack. Inside the Morpho, Kiri pities the 86 crew who continue continue to chase him. He recognizes Shin's clan name and feels sorrow, knowing Shin may end up just like him. Kiri reminisces about the memories he shared with Federica before his death, then finally perishes and joins the Legion's ghostly ranks. After the battle ends for that moment, Shin communicates with the remaining Nordlicht squadron. He makes them understand that as long as they are retreating, the Morpho will keep moving deeper into Legion-held territory, making it harder to destroy. Even if they cannot defeat it, they will still die, so it is better to focus all their efforts on the Morpho. Shin and the rest of the 86 crew search for a place to rest, while the other Nordlicht members and Lieutenant Greta also look for a temporary base, feeling pity for the 86 crew's recklessness, confidence, and knowing that their determination may soon cost them their lives. One of the soldiers praises Lieutenant Greta's piloting skills, calling her control impressive and fearless. As the 86 crew pack their supplies, they suddenly hear a faint sound from Fido, like a cat's meow. They check and discover Federica hiding inside. When they open Fido's compartment, Raiden angrily asks why she followed them. Federica firmly replies that even though they are from the 86 sector, their deaths are not certain. She explains that even Ernst begged them not to embark on this journey, but since they insisted, she decided to come along, calling herself their hostage and declaring that her duty is to make sure they come home alive. Raiden promises to take care of Federica and warns her not to follow them into such dangerous missions again, assuring her that they will not die. The group then decides to go have lunch. On their way, Shin calls Federica aside and hands her a handgun, telling her to use it only to protect herself during the journey. She agrees, saying she will use it only for this mission because she is still young and inexperienced with weapons, and she promises to return it after they successfully reach the base. The commander reports that the Morpho has withdrawn and stopped on the tracks in the southern region of Legion-held territory. The Federacy's main force and the Alliance advance along the southern rail line. Even the United Kingdom volunteers to act as a diversion, and they plan to deploy anti-radar weapons still in development, looking for a safer way to assault the Morpho and give the Federacy crews a chance to defeat it. While the 86 crew are stranded in Legion territory, Shin sits alone until Raiden finds him. Shin tells Raiden that the Morpho has diverted north. Raiden understands how desperate the enemy must be to need a double diversion. The Federacy main force is far away, and they will probably attack the Morpho at night. Without warning, Raiden scolds Shin, telling him to take Federica and go back to the Federacy. He argues that Shin is the only one who can do that. He can even guide the remaining crews through the para-raid. Shin makes him realize that creating another diversion will only give the Legion their hands full with two fronts, while the main force fighting in Legion territory is a death sentence already. Angrily, Raiden accuses Shin of being possessed, claiming it is the ghost of Federica's knight that distracts him. Shin refuses to answer, and Raiden grows more upset that Shin has never opened up to anyone on the battlefield, and since then they call him the Reaper. Shin suggests Raiden can take Federica home himself and that he will deal with Morpho alone rather than carry the entire burden. Raiden pulls Shin down as he tries to run away from the conversation. He tells Shin that sacrificing himself alone won't fix anything. Shin has to reject the mentality of walking into a battlefield of no return. Raiden insists they will all come back alive, that Shin has to move forward with his life and stop letting his brother's death define him. Finally, Raiden emphasizes that he will return from Legion territory, that the others will come back alive, and that they will support Shin when he is tired. He urges Shin to abandon the lone fighter mindset. The rest of the 86 crew and Federica overhear the argument but do not interrupt. They know intervening will complicate things. They accept Raiden's words about Shin. He's been acting strange, and they feel pity for him. Deep down, Shin reconsiders Raiden's words. Theato, Anju, and Karena feel down about Shin's behavior. Sometimes he leads the war and then leaves them behind. Federica reveals that she has seen inside Shin's mind and realizes what he has done. That night, Shin creeps closer to the Natseher. Fido makes a small sound that warns him not to go without the others, even though Shin believes things might be better if he leaves alone. The bond he shares with the crew keeps him from walking away. At the Nordlicht Squadron's position within Legion territory, Major wakes from sleep and synchronizes with the 86 crew using Republic technology. They can only synchronize with the 86 when the pilots are sleeping, but 5 of the 86 are deep in enemy territory. The rest of the Nordlicht watch the 86 closely, determined not to let Legion forces capture them, and resolve to retrieve them soon. Lieutenant Greta enters the Nordlicht Squadron's quarters and finds they too are prepared to rescue the 86 crew. Despite the odd behavior that has put the 86 in danger, the squadron cares for them and intends to bring them back. While the 86 crew tests the Natser, they discover several faulty parts. Even the engine has problems, but they nonetheless embark on the pursuit of the Morpho. On their way, Federica desires to visit the sea as they reach the ocean and decide to stop at the seaside. None of them have ever seen the sea before. They have known only the battlefield, Federica included. Excitement spreads as they watch the waves for the first time, and they make a silent promise that once the war is over, they will return to see the ocean properly. At last, the 86 find a place to rest. Shin and Fido stay awake. Federica cannot sleep either. She walks over to him, and they remain there having a discussion. Federica tells Shin that she now understands him better, his motives, and why he appears disconnected disconnected from the survival of humanity. She tries to relate him to the Legion. Their ghosts want nothing, and in a way, Shin does not either. Since the day he has been half dead, he has lost interest in the world. Federica opens his eyes to the last war that brings them to the Confederacy, the first time he has tasted freedom, and the first time anything has felt fun. Shin says that all the 86 crew would have died without a rescue. The Confederacy of Jihad saves them. He apologizes to Federica for using her knight Kiri to probe Legion territory, a death sentence, and admits he still plans to walk into an unrewarding battle. Despite Shin's pain, Federica thanks him for freeing Kiri from misery. She mourns, then threatens to shoot him if he tries anything reckless. Though the Confederacy should never have put a child like her into such a role, she resolves to live, to end Knight Kiri's suffering, and to force Shin to change. She urges him to accept his companion's support instead of walking alone in the dark. Shin, grim, still insists he wants to live even if he has no wishes left. He believes those who call him the Reaper will die before him and leave him behind. Federica is stunned to hear him say it. After the 86 crew and Federica rest within Legion territory, they begin their pursuit of the Morpho before it can regain its strength. As the chase begins, Raiden holds Federica close and connects with her through the parade, asking if she can target Kiria when the time comes. Federica responds firmly, showing she is ready for the task. During the mission, Shin, Raiden, Theoto, Anju, and Karena notice that a large group of Legion units is pursuing them along the riverside. Anju is the first to be attacked by the Legion's railgun cannon, but she manages to recover quickly and avoids being taken down. The squad loses contact with one group of Legion units that had followed them, but Shin warns the others to stay sharp because another swarm is preparing to intercept them ahead. The Legion's strategy becomes clear in how they prepare to cross them. One unit will block their advance while another closes in from behind to annihilate them completely. The Morpho activates its firing sequence targeting the 86 crew. Federica, monitoring the radar, immediately warns them to dodge, and the team narrowly avoids a devastating blast. Karena retaliates with missile fire, but Kiria, piloting the Morpho, furiously returns fire, launching a counterattack that strikes near Karena and Raiden with heavy explosive force. Shin immediately orders Federica to stay inside Fido, warning her that the next assault will be even more intense. When he notices she's watching through the external cameras, he closes Fido's hatch and instructs it to return her safely to the Confederacy base in case they all fall in battle. Federica protests, insisting she would rather die fighting than abandon them, speaking like a seasoned soldier despite her youth. As Shin speaks to Federica through the communicating device, urging her to live, he approaches the massive Morpho, a gigantic train-like weapon armed with a railgun of immense range and power. Kiria, now consumed by hatred and madness, powers up his Morpho to face Shin directly. Shin recalls Raiden's words about not fighting alone, but determination drives him forward, unwilling to retreat. The Morpho opens fire, railgun blasts, tearing through the ground. Shin dodges skillfully, darting through the blind spots of Kiria's aim. Kiria grudgingly admires Shin's agility, remembering how his own elder brother once displayed the same battlefield skill, but his admiration twists into rage. He vows to destroy Shin and double the power of the Legion through his death. Federica views the vision of the past, remembers Eugene's story about Shin's past failures, and pleads with Shin not to move closer to Kiria, saying he doesn't have to throw away his life. In the chaos, Shin clings to the Morpho's outer hull, exchanging fire while Raiden launches missiles to cover him, shouting Shin's name to fall back. Kiria shifts his aim toward Raiden, unleashing another railgun blast. Shin soon realizes that most of his team has fallen or been separated. Accepting the burden of survival, he resolves to finish the mission alone, even if it cost him his life. Suddenly, a barrage of missiles rains down. Reinforcements from other 86 units are still fighting. Kiria notices the interference and cunningly tries to lure Shin closer, spreading Morpho's electric wings to trap him. Shin anticipates the move and veers sharply, narrowly escaping the deadly current. The 86 crew continue their counterattack, coordinating their fire from multiple directions. Shin identifies a weak point on the Morpho and fires directly, dealing critical damage. Kiria screams in fury, vowing to obliterate Shin no matter how many bullets it takes. In the midst of battle, visions of Federica flash before Kiria, her voice echoing in his mind, pleading for him to stop destroying everything and reminding him that Shin is family, the last of their shared bloodline. For a moment, Kiria falters, but his hatred burns stronger than his reason. He recalls the pain of losing everything, even Federica, on the battlefield. Federica raises her gun, speaking to him directly through the parade, telling him he has done enough as her knight and begging him to rest. Her words weaken Kiria's resolve, but his monstrous will still pushes him to attack. Overcome by emotion, Federica runs toward the battlefield, tears streaming down her face, remembering the memories they once shared. She knows that only by facing him now can she bring peace to his soul, even if it means ending his life. Shin asks Federica for Kiria's position through the parade, locking onto her coordinates. In a final clash, Shin's brother Share's memory, Kiria's ghost, and Federica's voice converge, and together, Shin and Federica deliver the final blow, destroying both the Morpho and Kiria. As Federica moves closer to the remains of the Morpho, the entire structure explodes explodes in a massive blast, leaving behind only fragments of metal. Kiri starts shouting Federica's name. Federica and Shin dash towards him while Federica still threatens that she will murder herself. Finally, Shin enters deeper into Kiri's morpho and asks Federica where he is in the morpho. Shin shoots him, but Kiri drags Shin with him to die together so that no one will be left behind. Kiri has already activated self-destruction, knowing he will die but refusing to die alone. The morpho explodes, and Shin moves away at high speed even though he would have been caught in the blast. Shin recalls memories of his brother Shaorei, how he blamed him for their parents' death and once held him by the neck. All the memories of the people and fellow 86 crew who died over the years replay in his mind, and how they used to blame him. Shin worries about how many have died before him while he still lives, feeling like there's nothing left to live for. The memories of the fallen weaken him even more, and his heart freezes. Still within his dream, the 4 members of the 86 crew, including Federica, appear before Shin, where he's frozen. As they fade away, he wakes up calling out to them in desperation. Shin, now weak, notices his leg is stuck on the Legion life, and he can't move it. Suddenly, he sees a Legion approaching, hearing voices saying he only destroyed the Morpho. Someone from afar destroys the Legion when Shin is completely helpless. The scene then shows Lena walking towards Shin. From a distance, Lena waves at Shin. When he realizes the person is from the Republic of San Magnolia, they begin communicating through Para-Raid. Shin introduces himself as a member of the Federacy of Jihad, sent on a mission to destroy the Legion unit. Lena appreciates his efforts. Lena asks about the rest of the 86 crew since they aren't with him. Shin tells her they lost communication but assures her they are behind him and safe. Lena, however, keeps her promise that she will never abandon the 86, even if they are far away or in another country. Shin objects, telling her not to keep fighting, but Lena insists she will fight until the end and finally introduces herself as Captain Lena, commander of the former Republic Defense Forces. Shin is stunned by her confidence and boldness. The scene shifts with flowers blooming, and the air feels fresh and bright. Shin reminds her about the Legion assault that destroyed the Republic long ago and how many people died. Lena explains that during the recent large Legion assault, she was warned ahead by others and survived. That's why she's still fighting. She shows Shin a book drawn by the 86 crew, a symbol of their goal to fight to the end. She thanks Shin for fighting until the end, saying if he hadn't entered the Morpho territory, they would have failed. Her words move Shin to tears. As Shin wants to take steps and opens the Reagan leaf hatch, he sees more Legions approaching. Lena panics and the person protecting her urges her to enter, then missiles suddenly rain down, destroying the enemy. The Federacy's Nordlicht squadron arrives at Shin's location, smiling proudly that Shin completed the mission. The other 86 crew report to Lieutenant Graytha that the operation was a success. The 86 reconnect with Shin, who wonders how they survived. Raiden laughs at his question, while Karena cries, saying she couldn't reach him. They scold him to appreciate their presence instead of assuming they're dead. Shin is struck by their words and lowers his head. Ernst, president of the Federacy of Jihad, congratulates Shin for completing the mission. Though Shin shows no emotion, Ernst warmly calls him his little baby son, admitting he has been worried about him. Ernst explains that their vanguard reported Shin's contact with Lena and that the Federacy will now begin operations with the former Republic's territory. He says other nations have joined the cause, making it clear that the rescue operation was no different from what Lena once did for them. After hearing this, Shin decides to stay with the Federacy, saying he has no intention of returning to save the Republic. Ernst smiles proudly at his choice. Shin worries about Lena and the Republic forces, but Ernst assures him that a helicopter will take her back to Grand Mur in case they encounter the Legion. He tells Shin and his squad to rest, that the vanguard will handle things for now. Federica remains silent. Ernst scolds her, saying she'll face punishment when she returns. Shin agrees to send her back as soon as possible. Later, Federica meets Shin and confronts him, refusing to return even if they regroup. Shin insists that enough is enough, no more hostages. He's surprised she survived. Federica explains that Kiri protected her during the Morpho explosion and that she lost the handgun he gave her. She reveals her past and present visions, telling Shin he's still carrying the Republic's burdens. Shin is surprised that she knows about Lena, forgetting that Federica can see both the past and present. She senses a deep connection between Lena and Shin because his expression changes when Lena appears. When Lena leaves by helicopter, Shin is too weak and injured to call out her name. Federica, watching his expression, teasingly calls him a boy who already has his answer despite his stubbornness. She reminds Shin that even though they're on different paths, they will meet again because both are determined to keep fighting. When she asks about his next destination, he stays silent and enters a Regan Leaf to try and catch up with Lena, but it's too late. Back at the Federacy base, the Nordlicht squadron members who were sent to the Legion territory are now treated for their injuries. Some are eating and relaxing, while others remain in the hospital recovering. Lieutenant Greta gathers all 86 crew for debriefing. When Shin enters to submit his mission report, Greta mischievously plays Lena's recorded voice for everyone to hear. Shin takes the papers from her and walks out silently. The other 86 crew start asking Shin questions about what Lena looks like and if Shin saw her face, but he admits he didn't, surprising Anju, Theoto, Karena, and Raiden. Even Lena didn't realize she was speaking to Shin because he never introduced himself. Anju and Karena reflect on the letters they once wrote, not to forget each other. Karena notices that Lena's voice sounds stronger now, full of courage from surviving many battles. Suddenly, Karena becomes emotional, bawling her eyes out as if she's been hit, wishing she could see Lena just once. The remaining members of the 86 silently share the same wish. In the Federacy, Ernst happily welcomes the 86 crew, Shen, Raiden, Rika, Karena, and Anju, home with a lot of surprises. He presents them with different gifts, well packaged according to their names, and welcomes them again to the second Holy Birth Festival. Federica is also at home doing her math assignment. As Ernst sees her outside, he scolds her, asking if she has finished her assignments, but she feels this is educational punishment and frowns. Later, Shin, Raiden, Rika, Karena, and Anju sit down comfortably and open the gifts Ernst presented to them. They all see different packages that match their lifestyles and what they enjoy the most. Shin finds books because he loves visiting the library, Karena gets a fashion bag that suits her, Anju finds cooking utensils, and so on. With that, Ernst welcomes them to their home. Time to start their new lives and forget the battlefield. Life isn't meant to be lived chasing death. In their new peaceful life, the 86 crew find different ways to live happily in the Federacy. Anju cooks different meals for people and even dreams of opening a restaurant. Karena works in a fashion shop because she enjoys exploring new styles. Even Federica and Shin learn how to cook and serve people at home, including Ernst, who eats from their food. Raiden works with furniture, while Rika draws the moments they spent on the battlefield. They all enjoy their new life. Later at home, Ernst gathers all 86 crew and shows them his personal proposal about the Legion. Rika and Raiden feel they can kick the legions behind as they used to do. Ernst wishes to fulfill their desire by keeping them on the front lines, but this time a foreign officer will be their new commander. The 86 crew has no issue with that, but Shin remains quiet, shocking everyone because Shin always wishes to go to the battlefield without hesitation. Ernst quietly wishes the Federacy can expedite training their officers at the academy because they have lost almost 60% of their manpower during the Legion assault. Two officers report to him that even though the Legion has lost significant combat forces, their production facilities remain intact and action must be taken. They assure him that they will maintain their current defensive lines and assemble an independent mobile strike package to concentrate firepower against Legion areas, assigning the 5 members of the 86 to that mission. The officers expect Ernst to oppose sending the 86 crew to battle again, but he supports the motion, saying he cannot deny their wishes or the value they place on staying in battle. One of the officers worries whether the 86 will accept a foreign commander, but Ernst replies that he was worried too, though his fears were misplaced. Later, Shin visits the memorial site to present flowers to Eugene and assures him that his wishes remain intact to manage the front line. He promises that the 86 are handling it. Shin recalls Eugene's question about his reason for fighting. Back then, he had no answer like Eugene did, but now, Shin says he fights to the end as someone without a future and hope. He wants to fulfill Eugene's wish for his sister Nina to see the sea. Shin promises to visit again and share stories of the places Eugene never got to see. As Shin turns back, he meets Marcel, who is shocked to see him at Eugene's grave. Marcel feels guilty, crying that he caused Nina's pain, that he killed his brother Eugene, and pretended it was Shin's fault. He apologizes deeply. Shin, soft-hearted, also apologizes, saying it was necessary, which shocks Marcel even more. As Shin walks away, Nina also brings flowers to Eugene's grave but misses seeing him. She notices another bouquet and picture on the ground, turns around, and sees Marcel instead. Checking the presents, she finds the picture Shin left behind, showing him and Eugene together. She holds it close and smiles through tears, thanking Shin for showing her brother's happiness. Shin later meets Rika, who asks why he still uses his identification as the Reaper on the Regin leaf. Rika reminds him he no longer needs to bear that name. Shin realizes it but says he doesn't carry the same burden anymore. Raiden and the others are there too. Raiden notices that Shin seems at peace and Shin admits he no longer sees ghosts. Shin visits his brother Shorei's memorial, telling him that it is hard to imagine this future without him. He says he has no goals or wishes but feels content having trusted people by his side and that it's enough for him to move forward. In the Republic of San Magnolia, Lena checks where she keeps the names of the remaining 86 and promises never to forget them no matter what. Later, Lena visits her father's grave and remembers that the Legion offensive began on the night of the Resolution Festival. She recalls how people fought, how the 86 supported her, and how the Republic was ruined, but they managed to hold a defensive line until rescue forces arrived. The surviving 86 became Federacy citizens, and the remaining rescue forces now provide humanitarian aid. Afterward, Lena visits her uncle, a lieutenant colonel, who questions her about the Federacy and their brave soldiers equipped with the latest weapons that valiantly advanced the front lines and retook the first sector. He also mentions the Federacy's request for an officer to help break the stalemate north of the first sector. Lena confirms everything, including that she volunteered to lead the unit. Her uncle is proud of her and wishes her good luck on the new assignment. Later, Lena and Annette spend time together. Annette asks if Lena is going to the Federacy, and she replies that she is going, then asks if Annette is surprised. Annette answers that after everything she has seen, nothing surprises her anymore. While they talk, Annette notices a Federacy para-raid similar to their Republic version and says, says it's a coincidence, though she feels the Federacy copied their technology. It startles Lena. Annette glances at Lena's notice board and sees pictures of the 86 crew on her wall, realizing the connection and wanting to find out who took the Republic tech. Lena also wonders why Annette has a Federacy para raid, but Annette explains she serves as a technological specialist officer and also volunteered to visit the Federacy. They are happy to do it together until the end. Still in the Republic, one of the Federacy officers visits and acknowledges Lena's role in surviving the Legion offensive alongside the 86. He praises her and says he can't wait to see her in the Federacy. Later, Lena remembers her uncle's words and vows to prove her strength as she pursues her dream. When Lena arrives in the Federacy, President Ernst welcomes her warmly. Federacy officers show her the memorials of the fallen 86, and she honors them, determined never to forget their sacrifice. The surviving 86 can't wait to see her with her black cat, as people used to say. Shin wonders if she will recognize them, but Rika assures him that even if she doesn't, they'll still move on. Lena explores the Federacy as Ernst introduces her new squadron. Those awaiting the bridesmaid finally see her face to face and salute, and she introduces herself. The others burst into laughter when Shin tells her that although this is their first physical meeting, it's not their first time knowing each other. Shin calls her Handler 1, as he used to call them, shocking Lena, and introduces himself as the new captain in the Federal Republic of Giad and former captain of the Spearhead Squadron, Shini Nuzin. Her eyes fill with tears as she weeps with joy, their eyes locking together. As Lena's cat runs out, Shin's Fido also appears to defend its master, but Lena drops the picture she was holding. At the end, Raiden, Theo, and Anju see the drawing Lena made of them. Anju thanks her for taking care of the cat, and little Federica captures the moment by taking a picture of them. Lena declares to Sheen that she will fight with him to the end.